Hey there, folks. Welcome to another fun at-home table read. Tonight we are tackling another unmade script, Green Arrow, Escape from Supermax. Got a fun cast tonight, so we're going to get right into it.
Oh, hello. My name is Jeremy Weinreich. I'm playing Action Description, aka Mr. Description.
I'm Hunter Karras, and I am the Green Arrow.
I'm Logan Horberg. I'm reading for Hackett.
Hi, I'm Marko, and I'm reading for Amanda Waller.
Hi, I'm Mary Pat, and I am reading for Gemini.
Hi, I'm Angi, and I'm reading Merlyn.
Hi, I'm Jen Sanet, and I'm Hartley.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, take us away.
Thanks. Okay, Green Arrow, Escape from Supermax, an original screenplay by Justin Marks, based on the characters from DC Comics, March 5th, 2008. If you'd like to contact Phantom 4 Films, it's 424. Okay, fade in. Sounds of water lapping against a hull, endlessly, rhythmically, peacefully. And then, splash! Exterior, Caribbean Ocean, night. 12 years ago. Young Oliver Queen, 20s, in a soaking wet tuxedo, struggling to stay afloat in a raging ocean. Behind him, a yacht cruises away. We can still hear distant music from the party on board. Queen, stunned sober by the impact, tries to yell out, but only swallows seawater. The yacht disappears into the fog.
What I remember are two Oliver Queens.
Interior, opulent dining hall, night. Today, the fully grown Oliver Queen, early 30s, strong features, light complexion, thin goatee. This guy's got it together.
There was the wild trust fund brat. First at the party, last to leave, never without a gorgeous model on his arm.
Wider to reveal an enormous ballroom full of high society patrons. Queen sitting front and center.
And then there was the trust fund brat who fell off his own yacht and resurfaced 3 years later.
Standing at a podium delivering the speech is Will Hackett, 30s, refined Englishman. Queen's childhood best friend.
That was a different Ollie. Focused, full of principles and vision. Man who sits before us today.
Queen smiles graciously, lifts his glass as a thank you. Behind Hackett, slides flash on a projection screen, showing Queen doing social work in various corners of the world, a man with his sleeves perpetually rolled up.
Over the past 10 years, Queen Industries has committed almost $1 billion towards these principles, whether it be fighting organized crime, corporate fraud, or government corruption. Oliver Queen is a warrior on the front lines, a modern-day Robin Hood.
The slides turn off. Hackett looks out to the crowd.
In this world, virtue wears no suit.
Applause in the crowd. Queen focuses attention on Marcus Cross, 60s, an older CEO sitting at a nearby table, sharp, calculating, and manipulative. He raises a toast. Queen doesn't return the gesture. Exterior, Checkmate Star City Division headquarters night. In a different part of town, several trucks have pulled into the loading bay of an anonymous industrial building. Uniformed workers carry heavy crates inside. On their label, Checkmate World Security Initiative. Interior, Checkmate Headquarters War Room night. A new operation is moving in. Expensive computers being installed by Checkmate techs. Overseeing this operation, tough as they come, is Colonel Talibeni Khalid. 5 stars around his collar, a flag on his arm, worn proudly. Nearby, a flat-screen TV broadcasts the evening news. And in politics today, Colonel Talibeni Khalid appeared in front of an open congressional hearing to defend his controversial Checkmate program. Colonel Khalid glances over at the TV where he sees the image of himself speaking into a microphone.
Those who don the mask and cape should not be permitted to call themselves enforcers of the law. That is why our Checkmate initiative must safeguard the public from these vigilantes.
Overhead, a massive boot screen flashes the Checkmate logo. Sir, we're online. Colonel Khalid glances up at it and he smiles. Exterior, Checkmate headquarters rooftop night. A rooftop heavily guarded by a non-uniformed security detail. Walkie-talkies. Uzis all around. One of the agents stops along the parapet and extinguishes a cigarette. A noise, like a whisper. A sharp projectile cutting through thin air. Soft, subtle, precise. The agent tilts his head curiously. Was it just his imagination? Or was it a green arrow lodging itself in his chest? The agent hits the ground. A steel fiber wire runs from the arrow, still connected. The wire goes taut as weight pulls on it. Another agent rushes to the scene just in time to see a dark figure emerging over the ledge, ascending via an Australian rappel harness. Before the guard can move from a weapon, the attacker rises a compound hunting bow, aluminum alloy, complete with 2 laser sights and a hinged axle pivot that snaps an arrow immediately into the mount as he pulls back and releases. The arrow lands between the agent's eyes and knocks him backwards a full 10 feet before hitting the wall. Interior Checkmate headquarters, stairwell access continuous. Another agent, reading the sports section, picks up a walkie-talkie.
Rooftop, check in.
Suddenly, an arm wraps around his neck and pulls quickly. The agent struggles against his dark aggressor. The door opens and another agent sees what's happening. He goes for his 9mm and raises it to fire when an arrow lands in his hand.
Breach in the stairwell! One coming through! They're gonna be...
He doesn't even have a chance to get the word out, as another arrow is forcibly jammed into his throat. Interior Checkmate headquarters, war room continues. 4 agents burst into the room. Distant gunfire sounds out behind them.
Everybody out! There's been a breach!
What's wrong?
Sir, it's not safe for you here.
Suddenly the lights go off. They cut off. The agents put their backs together around Khalid, preparing for the worst, when sounds of arrows cut through the darkness. One by one, the bodyguards go down, arrows lodged in their chests. Khalid picks up a 9mm off the floor and backs beneath a computer bay for safety. Footsteps walk over the concrete floor, slow and precise. 2 heavy boots with knife spurs projecting from the sides. Khalid checks the safety on his 9mm. Suddenly, a hand grabs him by the shirt collar and yanks him forcibly as we cut to interior opulent dining hall night. Hackett shuffles papers on the podium.
Anyway, it's time to hear from the man himself. Philanderer, philanthropist, philosopher, call him what you may. I'm just proud to call him my client, my wingman, and my lifelong best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Oliver Queen.
A standing ovation throughout the ballroom. Queen downs his champagne, straightens his bow tie, and ascends the platform into the warm embrace of Hackett.
You had to use the yacht story, didn't you?
Hackett catches a glimpse of Marko behind him.
You see him? Some balls. $10,000 table at a benefit for the man he's trying to buy out.
At least we know he's serious.
Hackett smiles and steps off the platform. Queen looks out at the crowd. He's about to start speaking when suddenly, police band radio whispers through a concealed device nestled in his ear.
All cars in the vicinity of 4th Street. Reports of an attack on the Checkmate HQ.
Queen pauses. This registers great concern from him. He looks out over the waiting crowd and then...
Sorry. Sometimes virtue can't speak for itself.
And with that, he walks briskly off the stage and out of the ballroom. The crowd watches with confused concern. Interior hotel hallway continuous. Queen loosens his bow tie in full stride. Hackett emerges behind him.
Ollie, come on. They made a cake for you. It's 8 layers.
Something's come up. I need you to cover. Don't act like you don't enjoy it.
One of these days, I'm going to run out of things to tell him.
Queen smiles and tosses Hackett his bow tie.
Sorry, buddy. I'll be back by dessert.
Go. Save the world. See what I get.
Exterior Star City streets night. 6 police cars dart through the main avenue, sirens blazing, accelerating to 80 miles per hour.
Suspect last seen headed by car towards the warehouse district on Fort and Main.
Above the streets, we crane up to a black tuxedo discarded hastily on a rooftop, which we recognize as the one Queen was just wearing. Pan over to the outline of a man soaring away across a zip line in pursuit of the police cars. He lands on an adjacent building and does a quick somersault roll, which he finishes in a sprint that gives him enough speed to leap off towards the next rooftop, landing perfectly once again and providing us with a perfect view of the Green Arrow, aka Oliver Queen. Tight green leather suit, quivers attached to his ankles and thighs, and a giant compound bow running across his back. His face is concealed by a dark hood.
Scratch that, make it Fort and Wentworth.
Queen glances to his right and sees the building they're talking about. He knows the shortcut and acts accordingly, cutting over buildings where roads can't travel. Interior toy warehouse, 3rd floor night. An empty mill, the door bursts open and Queen struts in, bow drawn, ready for a fight, when he sees the loft space is empty, except for a single chair containing a slumped-over figure. Queen edges closer, constantly checking sightlines, wondering what he's walking into. He circles the chair to see Colonel Khalid, Out cold, and not the unconscious kind. The man is dead, killed by the object protruding from his chest, which just so happens to be a green arrow. Queen compares it with the others in his thigh-mounted quiver. It's a dead match. He's been set up.
All units, new reports are coming in. Suspect has been ID'd as the Green Arrow.
Not good.
Distant police sirens. Just then, on all sides, the doors burst open, and a SWAT unit, ready for war, rushes the room with their rifles raised.
Freeze! Let's see those hands!
Queen slowly raises his hands, but with a sense of purpose. Wrist-mounted crossbows. Fire cables towards the ceiling. Queen lifts himself high above the SWAT team. They open fire, but bullets are no match for a man of his speed. They ricochet off the steel struts around him. Queen sprints along the rafters. He pulls out his bow and fires an arrow into the vertical support struts ahead of him. It lights up, and then, kaboom! The arrow explodes, causing the struts to buckle inwards and Queen's platform to tilt downwards, allowing him to surf down along its slope and somersault to landing. Interior abandoned warehouse, hallway continuous. Queen rushes through the corridor. He hears footsteps and sees lights at the stairwell ahead. More police are coming. Up. He looks to his left and sees a door labeled men's room. Interior abandoned warehouse, men's room continuous. He pushes inside and sprints towards a set of floor-to-ceiling windows on the other end of the long space, passing several industrial hand dryers mounted on the wall. He knocks off their porcelain bodies one after another as he runs by, allowing the heated oxygen vents to blow freely into the space. Then he draws an arrow and fires it into a nearby radiator pipe. The methane gas begins leaking loudly. The SWAT team bursts in behind him, automatic weapons raised, and begin firing. Whoom! Whoom! The sparks from the rifles ignite the free-flowing methane gas, which sets off as the streams of oxygen emanating from the hand dryer vents and shoots plumes of fire all across the room, causing the team to duck back and crawl to safety in the hallway. Queen runs straight towards the glass ahead of him and, exterior abandoned warehouse night, bursts through, righting himself midair and grabbing onto a cable which he uses to slide himself to a safe landing. Out of breath and exhausted, unprepared to face...
Don't move, Green Arrow.
He spins around and realizes he is completely surrounded. Dozens of cops in a wide circle, all of their weapons trained on him. Squad cars stopped everywhere. It's a small army. The chief stands at the front of the line.
Now drop your weapons.
On Queen, the face behind the mask, still considering his options, realizing he doesn't have any. The show is over. He pulls out a cord which causes his several quivers to drop from his body. 2 on his thighs, 1 on his back. The crossbows go next, then his bow, then his backup bow. Exterior downtown Star City Police Department night. A throng of reporters has gathered on the front steps of the station. Nobody's being let inside. Will Hackett pulls up in a limousine and pushes his way through the reporters as if they weren't there. Interior police station lobby continuous. Police Lieutenant Cameron, 50s, smug, arrogant, been there, done that, but by the look on his face, tonight is one place he's never been, nor done. He meets Hackett at the door. They stride down a corridor towards the elevator.
Any of your men laid a finger on my client?
Laid a finger? One of my rookies tried to take off his mask. Kid's gonna be brushing his teeth with his feet for the next 2 months.
Interior police station elevator continuous. Cameron swipes a key card and presses the button for the basement. The door closes.
This client of yours, billionaire, no billionaire, I don't care who he is. When he straps on his suits and kills a high-ranking official, he's not getting preferential treatment.
Oliver Queen is not a killer.
Oliver Queen's got nothing to do with it. This is about the Green Arrow and the dozens of DAs who's been trying to bring him down for a long time.
They stare off for a long beat. Cameron smirks.
Rock, meat, hard place.
Interior high-tech holding room continuous. Cameron closes the door and leaves Hackett alone inside, staring at Queen, dangling midair from several chains, his arms wrapped across his chest, his legs twisted too. He's still in his costume except the hood is pulled back and the mask removed. He's bruised and bleeding.
Listen, they haven't even booked you yet.
Cross set me up. Sitting at my benefit, smiling the whole time.
Hackett picks up the Green Arrow mask off the floor.
How would he find out who you were?
Hackett. This is a $90 billion takeover. No secret is too expensive. I've got to assume we've been totally compromised.
They freeze your assets. If they mark your expenditures as criminal activity, this takeover just got that much easier.
That's why I have the best lawyer in Star City on my side.
Hackett bites his lip thoughtfully.
I'll get on it.
Exterior Star City Financial District Day. Morning commuters read a newspaper with the headline, Billionaire Robin Hood. Another says, Hero or Murderer. It shows Oliver Queen next to a picture of the Green Arrow. Protesters push by on the sidewalk, waving signs that read, Let our hero go, and Green Arrow is a free man. Nearby, a reporter speaks into a shaky camera.
In a shocking turn of events, the controversial folk hero known as the Green Arrow has been apprehended and charged with murder. His secret identity, Star City's own billionaire playboy, Oliver Queen.
Interior District Attorney's office day, weeks later. On a television set, Colonel Khalid is delivering his speech to Congress.
As world citizens, we can no longer stand by while armed vigilantes take to the streets. We must fight back.
A hand shuts the television off, wide to reveal Hackett and a district attorney arguing in an ornate office. They stare at each other for a really long time.
It's one hell of a motive.
Look, I've got 500 witnesses who were having dinner with Oliver Queen at the time of the murder.
The time of the death was established 3 hours before the fundraiser.
What's this really about? Bringing in a vigilante because now Checkmate says it's illegal to wear a mask? Or are you boys just looking to finally get a punch in?
The district attorney smiles smugly, leans across the table.
This is about justice. I've been waiting 8 years for it. Your rich playboy is going away for a long, long time.
Exterior Queens Star City brownstone night. Reporters are held back behind police lines as Lieutenant Cameron, the district attorney, and a team of policemen push through the metal gates labeled Queen. Interior Queen's mansion moments later. Cameron and the district attorney shine a light around the gorgeous collections of art, mostly centering on primitive sculptures.
Damn it, Travis.
They stare at him.
Why does a rich man with rich friends give up everything to fight crime?
Because he thinks he's better than us.
Cameron observes a nearby arrow mounted on the wall. He runs his hand over it thoughtfully, and then it retracts, sinking further back in the wood and unlocking a series of wall panels in jigsaw form that suddenly push back to reveal a weapon arsenal. Thousands of arrows, all with varying functions, all labeled accordingly. Hundreds of different bows, too.
Our job just got a lot easier.
Cut to television footage. A commentator speaks in front of grainy amateur photos of the Green Arrow taken from afar.
After mysteriously arriving on the scene almost 10 years ago, the Green Arrow quickly became a heroic symbol to the downtrodden residents of Star City, a modern-day Robin Hood.
News footage of Queen being escorted into the police station boat, what seems like an army of officers.
Now Star City has a new name for their masked man, billionaire industrialist Oliver Queen.
The images disappear and we slowly zoom on the commentator.
None can speak for that sense of what sense of justice inspired Mr. Queen to don the famous green mask. We do know this. The face of this trust fund vigilante now lies in the hands of judge and jury.
Exterior downtown police department day, weeks later. Reporters follow Marcus Cross as he climbs the steps of the station with a small entourage in tow. Protesters camp out nearby, advocating for Queen's release. Mr. Cross will continue with your takeover attempt. Oh, that's not me. Sorry.
Well,
Mr. Cross, will you continue with your takeover attempt of Queen Industries in light of Mr. Queen's indictment?
I have always believed that Oliver Queen was of unfit moral character to run a billion-dollar enterprise, or an entreprise if you're feeling fancy. My only hope is that now the shareholders agree that it is time for new leadership.
He continues up the stairs and disappears inside. Interior police station, visiting chamber later. 3 guards drag Queen in by long rods attached to his neck, keeping him out of arm's reach like a wild dog. Cross waits on the other side of the glass.
They certainly don't leave anything to the imagination.
I've been known to make quick exits.
Cross holds his hand out to one of his men, who draws forth a pile of documents. He slips them into a tray.
Oliver, you're a good businessman. Clearly you know what's coming next.
Queen slams the tray back to the other side, never breaking eye contact with his adversary.
I know what you're trying to do, and it'll never happen.
But my work is for the good of the city.
Privatizing slums and uprooting thousands of people doesn't sound good to me.
Don't act so self-righteous. You drive a Porsche.
At least I never stole one.
Cross smiles slowly, buttons his suit, prepares to leave.
So you won't be reasoned with.
Cross leans forward and speaks close to the glass.
You have no idea what I'm capable of doing, Cross.
Interior federal courtroom day, weeks later. Queen, bound in chains, is led into the courtroom by the bailiff. In the background, cheers in the crowd. The federal judge silences the audience. Hackett pats Queen on the shoulder reassuringly. The jury walks into the room, poker faces. No one making eye contact with the federal prosecutors on the defendant. Or the defendant.
And that is me. I am sorry. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please pass your verdict on to the bailiff.
The foreman complies. The bailiff hands it to the judge, who stares at it, then passes it back.
To the charges of murder in the first degree, how do you find the defendant, Oliver Queen?
Tension builds. Everybody's
Guilty, Your Honor.
The crowd erupts in rage. Rah! Queen turns to the back of the room. We're standing patiently against the wall is Marcus Cross. He smiles. Exterior courthouse steps day. The crowds out front have gotten violent. People push against the lines of policemen. A protester speaks angrily into a news camera.
Green Arrow was the only guy who looked out for us in the slums. You take him away, you take away the city. What do we got left?
A limousine pushes through. Bodyguards make way, ushering the federal judge in plainclothes through the crowd as people throw things at him. Interior limousine continuous. The judge ducks in and pulls the door shut behind him. Sitting across from him, preparing a drink, is Marcus Cross.
Ooh, double trouble time. If I sentence this man to death, there's going to be a lynch mob waiting for me. That's why there's another option.
Cross passes him a sealed envelope with the Checkmate logo on it. The judge stares at the document inside.
This is worse than death.
Cross smiles, hands him his drink. Interior criminal hearing room day. The room is empty, but for the prosecutors, Queen and Hackett. Just then in the back, the doors open, and in walk soldiers in black fatigues. Checkmate logos on their sleeves, a private security force built to handle metahumans. These are not guys you mess with.
What the hell is this about?
The judge enters and sits at his throne.
Oliver Queen, please rise.
Your Honor, I demand an explanation.
Queen gestures for him to stop. He rises patiently.
Well, given the very public circumstances of this trial, this federal court faces considerable challenges in proposing a life sentence. Since we have no confidence that a conventional lockup will be able to contain a man of Mr. Queen's abilities, it is the recommendation of this court that he spends the remainder of his life in the only place in the world that could lock him down, the Supermax penitentiary for metahumans.
Hackett stands up, banging his fist furiously on the table.
Your Honor, this is out of line. My client has no special abilities.
I hereby surrender your life to the custody of the Checkmate Initiative. May God help you.
The judge slams his gavel on the podium. On Queen, flinching ever so slightly. Interior high security holding cell night. Queen sits alone in his cinder block room, handcuffed and shackled on each of his limbs. He can barely move. The heavy steel doors open and Hackett is escorted inside. He carries with him a tray of food.
You look like a man who could use one last hot meal.
The appeal.
Hackett shakes his head. Queen can't help but smile. It's so absurd.
Supermax. Alcatraz for supervillains. Probably half the inmates are there because of me.
Cross initiated the order this morning. He's advocating your standing be thrown out due to fraud. Ollie, I'm so sorry.
Did you bring the papers?
Hackett gives him a reluctant look.
Don't bail on me now. If you don't do this, he's going to have access to all of my assets. Pockets nobody should have access to.
The, archery expense account?
Make it disappear. I'm authorizing you to do whatever it takes. Bounce it around. Buy me some time.
Time for what?
Queen smiles at him knowingly.
You didn't think I'd rot in prison while some murderer is on the loose, did you?
Ollie, Supermax, it's a one-way ticket. No one has ever escaped.
I've gotten out of worse and you know it.
Hackett sighs, reaches into his briefcase, pulls out a series of legal documents and a pen.
Careful. They don't like it when I find sharp objects lying around.
He opens his mouth. Hackett puts the pen in and he signs while holding it with his teeth.
This is where we say goodbye.
You cheer up. I'm not dead yet. Not literally, at least.
Just then, over the tick of a nearby radiator, they hear noises of a crowd outside the thin sliver of the window, not large enough for a human to fit through. Queen and Hackett peer outside to see exterior police station night, a candlelight vigil where hundreds of people have gathered staring up at the prison in silence. Some carry signs that read, "Thank you, Green Arrow." Others read, "Come home soon." It's an emotional goodbye to a local hero, one last reminder of who he is to these people and what he has lost. Interior high security holding cell morning. Queen wakes up to the sound of the metal doors opening in the darkness. Hands grab him, dragging him in a strange hold across the floor, slamming shackles onto his hand, ankles, etc. Cut to quick shots. Queen being thrown into a barber's chair, his blonde hair shaved into a buzz cut, his goatee shaved off entirely. The Green Arrow uniform being shoved into a sealed plastic bag, buried in a deep storage closet, sealed up and vaulted. Queen being fastened to some kind of mobile chair, iron restraints on all sides, a mask slammed over his face so he can't bite his way through anything. Exterior airplane hangar night. An enormous C-13OH Hercules cargo plane. Painted on the side is a corporate logo. Checkmate Security Initiative. Humvee arrives and the Checkmate soldiers lift out Queen, tranquilized and bound in his metal chair restraints. Keys dangle from one of their belts. His mask is removed. He finds himself staring at a federal marshal waiting beside the soldier.
Oliver Queen, you are about to be incarcerated in the Supermax penitentiary for metahumans. You are no longer a member of Free Society, and any words you speak will no longer be recorded on public record. Do you have any final words?
Queen raises his hand slightly. Everyone looks down to see he's holding the handcuff keys. Wow. The soldiers all jump on him, prying the keys away while violently restraining him.
Tell Cross I'll see him when I get back.
The marshal nods his order to the Checkmate man, a tough soldier with a spiderweb tattoo on his face. Practically spits into Queen's eyes as he speaks. Kapui, how do you like the silver spoon now, rich boy? Then he jams a tranquilizer into his arm. Queen fades almost immediately. They lift him out of his chair and shove him into an enormous steel-plated transfer box, like a shipping crate except with air holes. This thing could contain the strongest of the strong. Interior of the Cross Company penthouse offices night. Cross hangs up his mobile phone, having just received news.
He's gone.
Wider to reveal several high-priced attorneys sitting around a giant table, passing documents back and forth.
I don't even want his name left on the letterhead after this is done.
Do we have the authorization from the co-signed officer?
Cross looks expectantly to his left, pan over to reveal Hackett, sitting next to him, holding Queen's papers in his hand.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Hackett passes the forms across the table, straightens his ties self-consciously. He catches a glimpse of himself in the reflection of the window. He doesn't like what he sees. Dissolved to blackness. Noises of a crane lifting. The crate settling into place inside the C-13OH. Hydraulic doors closing. The plane engine starting up. Take off. Later, Oliver Queen, lying in half darkness, listening as the plane reaches 30,000 feet. Later, the plane loses altitude. Touches down on a hard tarmac. Later, doors opening. Bright light pouring through. Queen shields his eyes. How long has he been in there? Prison guards drag him out of the crane and pull him along the floor. Queen catches glimpses of a large hangar. Overhead fluorescence. Other guards fully armed and in Kevlar. Later, hands holding him down. Mechanical syringe injects his forearm with a computer chip. We can see it glowing beneath the skin. We will call this a parallax device. On a computer monitor, Queen's chip activates on a three-dimensional grid. As he fades out of consciousness again, we dissolve to interior baptism gallery. Later. A sterile, hollow void. No windows. Cold steel, used surfaces. All you'd need to clean this place is a bucket of water. Queen awakes on the floor. Several chains hold him down. A dozen prison guards on a gallery above the main floor, rifles trained on him. He's in some kind of pentagonal chamber, like an operating theater. No one stands on his level until a mechanized sliding door opens, and in walks a single figure, silhouetted at first. But as the door closes, we see a woman. Beautiful features, shaved head, smart suit, high heels, piercing dark eyes that exude zen-like calm. This is Amanda Waller, black, 40s. Technically the warden of Supermax. She's more like the priest.
Hello, 9242. My name is Amanda Waller.
He stops at the edge of a painted circle.
Your sedative should be wearing out by now, which means everything I am going to tell you will be lucid and understood. Allow me to introduce you to Supermax, your home for the rest of your life.
Queen laughs to himself. Waller doesn't smile. She's seen men like him before, strong, unbreakable. She's broken them too.
You think you don't belong here?
I think you and I both know that answer.
Waller purses her hands gently behind her back. Then she nods at one of the guards on the second level, who reaches to a control panel and presses a button. Queen violently convulses, shaking until he hits the ground. The guard releases the button. Queen looks down at his forearm, studying the pulsing red parallax device beneath the surfaces of his skin.
Colonel Khalid was a friend of mine. I want you to know that.
Interior baptism gallery later, the guards each take turns beating at Queen while he crouches naked in the middle of the floor. One of these guards is Panotti, a good old southern boy, always with a gap-toothed sneer.
Ain't so tough without his mask.
Interior dressing room later, bruised and bloody Queen is handed a green jumpsuit and green sneakers, and pin numbers ironed to its back. 9242. Interior elevator later, Queen stands naked, holding his clothes in his arms, escorted by two guards. They use USB SIM cards for access. Interior main stem corridor later. The elevator doors open and Queen steps out into a long hallway. Dark and sterile steel walls. Above him, security cameras pivot back and forth. Interior A-block corridor later. A colossal cylindrical space, towering to a staggering height beneath the sun-drenched dome far above our heads. On all walls, we see the jail cells of hundreds of prisoners. The naked Queen is escorted down Broadway. Prisoners catcall him from every direction. Interior Queen's prison cell continuous, 100 square feet. A mattress on a mounted steel base, a toilet in the corner, a sink, a shelf to place belongings, and a spherical security camera on the ceiling. The door slams shut behind him. Queen stares up at the camera, knowing Waller's eyes are on him right now. He cracks a grin and waves at her. Interior Waller's suite continuous on the image of Queen standing up at the camera, wider to reveal the ultimate screening room, the central cortex. Waller's personal space is like a giant high-tech panopticon. Reclining seat in the center, staring upwards at the projected images of hundreds of screens. Using a touchpad, she can bring up any image into full view and move them around at will. Sound flows in from dozens of speakers, providing her with a way to hear every conversation. We'd call it voyeuristic, but this goes 10 steps above that. This is downright insane. Waller reaches up and minimizes Queen's monitor. Interior Queen's prison cell later. Queen dresses himself in his green jumpsuit. Above him near the ceiling is some kind of portal looking outside. He can't reach it, and it is slanted upwards. Through the opening. He can hear sounds of seagulls.
Say, hey, friend.
A fist sticks out of the neighboring cell for a pound. Queen hesitates a moment, then touches it, only to be electrocuted on contact. He falls backwards. His neighbor, a Japanese man known as Shock Trauma, 30s, laughs hysterically. Whoa. A woman stands in a cell on the opposite end of the gallery. She wears an orange jumpsuit. Gorgeous, athletic, auburn hair tied back in a bun. This is Gemini, 20s.
Trauma, give him a break. You'll get us in trouble.
Just playing with the new guy, Gemini. You want your shot?
Queen starts to stand up again, ready for a fight, Wan.
Careful. Don't want to upset your device.
He looks down at the red pulsing light on the parallax device on his forearm. It blinks at a higher rate.
Waller's eyes on the inside tracks your heart rate, location, meta input. You start trouble, use your powers a little too much. She'll know.
And then what happens?
Oh, you don't
And
want to know.
then what happens?
Brother, you don't want to know.
Queen turns back to the window overhead. He looks down at his shoes. Smooth, slick rubber looks over the bed, frame bolted to the ground.
What's your name, new guy?
He removes his shoes and begins dragging their soles along the sharp edge of the frame, cutting grooves in them.
Sooner or later, we're going to find out. We always do.
Queen puts his shoes back on and tries them on the slick steel walls. He now has traction. He gets a grip on the windowsill and glimpses out towards miles of blue ocean, not a landmark in sight.
Where are we?
Australia, the original penal colony.
That ain't the place, Trauma, and you know it. There's a northern breeze outside.
Bullshit! We're in the Bahamas, baby!
Gemini smiles.
And as you can see, there's been some debate.
Nobody's ever been out there?
One time, all that came back was a body bag. So how about that name?
Queen sits back on his bed. He can only play this game for so long.
I'll give you a name.
In a cell below, glass encased, airtight, and maintained at an incredibly high temperature, is a black man sweating bullets. He wears an orange jumpsuit. We will know him as Cameron McKent, 30s.
I know that voice anywhere.
On Queen, staring down at McKent across the divide.
Ain't that right, Green Arrow?
All around A block, the prisoners fall silent. You could hear a pin drop in there. The two men make eye contact as we flash cut to interior bank vault flashback. A cold hand gripping the wheel in the vault door, lowering its temperature so much that the wheel snaps off and gives the man access to the bullion inside. Wider to reveal a younger Cameron McKent, aka Icicle, his body entirely encased in ice, carrying a backpack to gather his prize. That's when he feels an arrow at his back. Behind him is Queen in his Green Arrow outfit.
Not another move.
Interior Queen's prison cell today. On McKent, his skin momentarily freezing over before the high heat of his cell reduces him back to normal temperature.
Good to see you. We're going to have some fun together real soon.
Interior Queen's prison cell night. Everyone in A block is asleep. Silence. Not even a whisper. Queen lies on his back, staring up at his ceiling as he hears a rumbling noise beyond the walls. Just then, whoom! He's suddenly pulled off his bed as the entire cell moves backwards, being sucked into the wall itself. Queen clings onto the frame for support and stares through his bars as he's carried through a vast black void. A giant hydraulic calculus of dancing lights, where each light is another prison cell, dangling from hundreds of giant mechanical claws, moving the cells in concentric circles, spinning them into new locations, and finally, clank! They're all put back into place. Queen stands up, looking out through his bars at the restored A block, only to see that its shape has changed. All the cells have been rearranged. Even the corridors move in different lines. We have no idea which way is out.
Eventually, you'll slip right through it. They reconfigure it every night.
Queen looks up at Gemini, now 3 rows over his head.
Disorientation makes you think twice about breaking out, doesn't it?
Queen shrugs.
Just out of curiosity, What's the Green Arrow doing in Supermax anyway?
Would you believe I'm innocent?
I'd look out if I were you. This isn't the place to be a good guy.
Don't count me out yet.
Gemini smiles. Queen lies back down and tries to sleep. Interior Supermax, A-block corridor morning. The bars slide open and everyone steps onto a yellow line. Queen surveys the sorted assembly of prisoners, metahumans, regulars alike. All types of shapes and sizes, each wearing uniforms of varying colors for classification. They look very pleased to see him. A giant red sphere hovers above an iris vault door on the floor. It turns green and everyone begins walking. Queen moves in formation. He passes a few cells that are sealed up, their prisoners still inside. On one door vaulted closed, we see the label 2714, Joker. In another cell, another sealed cell, smiling at Queen through the acrylic glasses, McKent.
Good luck out there.
Interior main stem corridor continuous, a long hallway. Hundreds of prisoners walk compliantly beneath the watchful eyes of a dozen surveillance cameras. Queen hears more rumbling in the walls. This hallway has completely reconfigured. Different doors lead in different directions now. The whole prison has changed shape. He steps towards a doorway just as alarms ring out. His feet are outside of the yellow line, a voice booming over the monitors above.
Back in line, 9242.
An inmate in an orange jumpsuit comes up behind him, blonde-haired, southern accent, overeager, but winning despite it all. His name is Split, early 20s. He stares at him for a long time.
Sorry, Split News Commentator was put together. You want to keep breathing fresh air? I suggest you jump back. We don't get a very long leash around here.
Queen weighs his options, steps back in line.
So you're the Green Arrow.
Please, call me Queen.
Don't worry, I ain't gonna come after you. Just never saw a cape in the flesh before. Name's Split.
Queen pushes through a door. It slams shut in Split's face, and then he walks right through it. He's a teleporter.
Oh, shit. They're not gonna like that.
Split suddenly grips his temples like he's having the migraine of a lifetime. On his forearm, his parallax device flashes wildly. After a few moments, the blinking subsides.
Can't so much as walk through a door without sneezing blood for a week.
They stop you from using your powers?
Yup. We use too much of this thing, lights up like a 6-year-old girl at a tea party.
They continue walking, following the line of prisoners towards a massive steel iris opening.
Split. You know your way around here?
Sure, 3 years in the max. Why?
How about a tour for the new guy?
A tour. Hell, for me, you'll get the VIP breakdown.
Exterior recreation yard day, an enormous track and field complete with assigned areas for weight work, a soccer game, and people who just want to walk in circles. Behind them, the dome-like shape of the prison looms beneath a bright blue sky. We see all kinds of superpowers here, from super strength, speed, to a man with leaves covering his arms who sits in a sandbox, beckoning ferns to grow at will. Fans will know him as Floronic Man, 70s.
Welcome to Gen Pop. They figured out a couple years ago that inmates started going hog wild when their powers were completely shut down. Made it too hard to hold down the fort. So here we get supervised usage, 1 hour a day, as long as it's under control.
Surrounding them are heavy walls, a tungsten somium iridium compound. Cameras and shotgun microphones scan for conversations. Guards keep watch behind heavy artillery.
Backyard is reserved for inmates, Waller can control. Some folks, their powers are too much. We call them Class 5. Permanent lockdown back in the cells, but rest of us get free reign.
Queen watches a flock of pigeons take off from the soccer field, flying through the air and cutting west before they disappear in the sky.
This is it? This is Supermax?
It's no Four Seasons, but hey, at least they keep the ladies in here with us. Of course, these women fall into two categories. The kind you wouldn't want to screw and the kind you'd kill if you tried. Or who'd kill you if you tried.
Queen points to the perimeter walls.
Why doesn't someone just jump that wall?
Ask Count Vertigo. He tried it once. Parallax device hit him so hard he don't even know what day it is anymore.
Split points towards Count Vertigo 50 sitting on a bench, drooling and twitching uncontrollably.
You see, Queen, that's how Waller works. Only one way to break men like us. You break them from the inside.
Queen nods knowingly.
So out here, we got 3 groups. First, the mortals. Green suits. Not a lot of you in here.
They pass a cluster of prisoners in blue jumpsuits, all fragile-looking men playing with children's blocks like they were regressed preschoolers.
Then, we've got the geniuses. Blue suits. Extreme intelligence, they call it. Well, Luther's somewhere around here, but he ain't the old Lex. They injected him a counterbalance. Basically makes him dumb all day. I hear it's ganja, but don't tell no one.
Queen keeps his eye on one of them. Scraggly red hair with glasses. Fans will recognize him as the Calculator, 40s.
Finally, we've got Orange. My boys, meta, superpowers, strength, sight, speed, heat, teleportation, even some stuff you haven't even seen on the streets.
They walk by the weight area, a chicken wire cage where enormous prisoners work on their shape. One runs on a giant hamster wheel.
Parallax device keeps us in check, but still don't mean they're pushovers.
A behemoth of a man finishes his bench press and sits up. He's an animal-like monster, beyond human. This is Blockbuster, 40s. He stares Queen down and smiles maliciously.
Blockbuster. He kind of runs things here. You want to keep breathing? Steer clear of that guy.
As they walk past, Queen notices an older prisoner watching them from afar, in an orange jumpsuit with pale green eyes. Interior cafeteria day, Queen and Split enter a large mess hall. Thick walls, cement flooring, steel tables bolted to the ground, more shotgun microphones and cameras, constant surveillance. They pass through a scanner that feeds back their vitals to a guard booth on the wall. In the booth, each prisoner gets multiple layers of scans from the thermal to gamma, making sure they aren't carrying any foreign objects. The only things that register are the parallax devices in their arms. Guards hand out paper cards to each prisoner in a line.
Flex cards. More service hours you log, more cards you get. You can trade them in for rec hours, extra rations. It's Waller's way of giving back to the world.
Queen takes his food and sits down next to Split. He looks around for utensils.
No silverware?
You get used to your hands real fast.
Queen regards his hot oatmeal, unimpressed. Suddenly, wham! 2 powerful hands slam down on the table, shaking Queen's bowl of oatmeal. He looks up to see Iron Cross, 20s. An enormous man with Aryan Nation tattoos all over his ugly face. Behind him are several other neo-Nazis, including Heatmonger, female, and Backlash. Split picks his food up.
Good meeting you, Queen.
And with that, he teleports to the other side of the room. Iron Cross grabs Queen and lifts him up to face level.
I'm hearing the green arrows come to Supermax.
Yeah? When you see him, let me know.
Iron Cross tosses him sideways. One of the guards moves for an alarm button, but Officer Panati holds him back. He wants to see the new guy prove himself. Queen slides along the concrete floor, then picks himself up, dusts off, and returns to his seat, refusing to fight.
Check it. We got ourselves a pacifist.
You really don't want to fight me.
Heatmonger, a beautiful redhead, leans over the table. Her hands pressed on the surface melt the steel.
Tough talk from little men always gets me so hot.
Queen glances down, seeing that she's inadvertently heated his bowl of oatmeal to boiling temperature.
Let me help.
With a quick flick of his wrist, he suddenly flips the steaming oatmeal into her face. Heatmonger screams and clutches her cheeks. Backlash reaches out with an extending arm, which Queen quickly takes in a firm grip and twists backwards, snapping his bone. The arm goes limp. Queen leaps out of his seat while Iron Cross raises his fist and slams it down on the steel table, shattering its already melted form into 100 pieces. Panati hits the alarm. Guards rush the cafeteria. Queen picks up broken steel fragments of the table and tosses them at Iron Cross like throwing stars. Each one lodges itself into his enormous form as he gets closer and closer. Finally, Iron Cross picks Queen up in both arms and headbutts him in the face. Queen rears back, slightly dazed, bleeding from the mouth. Then he smiles.
You knocked out some teeth.
I'll knock out more than that.
Just as Ironcross prepares to squeeze the life out of him, Queen suddenly spits several loose teeth into his throat, causing Ironcross to choke and fall to his knees. He gasps desperately for breath. Queen takes him by the hair and slams his face into the bench. And then, an electric shock runs from his arm throughout his entire body. Queen convulses and hits the ground. Interior Waller's suite continuous. Waller watches quietly from the throne, having just delivered the shock via his parallax device.
That's enough fun for now.
Interior main stem corridor later. Giant hanging hydraulic claws slide along a horizontal track down the hallway, each of them carrying within its grip Ironcross, Heatmonger, Backlash, and Queen, dangling upside down, held at the ankles by the high-tech contraptions. They convulse spastically, still injected with inhibitors from their pulsing parallax devices. Interior Waller's sweet night. Queen lifts his head. He's coming back into focus. His hands and legs are bound by separate metal claws extending from the ground.
Whose side are you really on, 9242?
Sitting in her leather chair before him is Amanda Waller, hundreds of monitors behind her.
There you were, a man of incalculable wealth, all the resources in the world. You could have fought crime by any means. Instead, you chose to do so outside the law. Why?
All the money in the world can't make it a safer place.
No. That's why Checkmate is here.
They stare off for a long, slow beat.
We're not that different, you know. I used to believe in the goodness of mankind, the importance of right over wrong. That's not true anymore. In a world of capes and masks, all we have is the law to show us the way.
It doesn't bother you that Colonel Khalid's real killer is still out there on the street?
He's not. I'm looking at him.
I was set up.
Not according to the law.
Waller smiles and leans forward.
Supermax isn't just a place to house the degenerates of society. It's our only meaning in a compromised world. It's the line in the sand.
She presses a buzzer on her desk. The guards enter.
6 weeks in the hole. Good luck, 9242.
Interior B block, the whole solitary confinement later. Officer Panati and two other guards toss Queen into a pitch black room and slam the hatch shut. Queen feels around. He's in a small box, 7 feet by 7 feet, with a 7-foot tall ceiling. Not an ounce of light in any direction. His eyes adjust to the darkness. He catches vague glimpses of writing on the walls, scratches, day markers, personalized notes. One of them reads, E. Enigma was here. Queen runs his hands along it slowly as we dissolve to Interior Queen Industries boardroom day. Bright sun pouring in through the filtered windows. Hackett and Cross, with multiple attorneys flanking them, sit across the table from the shareholders of Queen Industries. A city clerk scours legal papers, and then finally,
Oh, this won't do.
I mean, it won't do. I have complete power of attorney granted by Oliver Queen himself.
This is an emergency authorization. It entitles you to make executive decisions within the framework of the title. However, acquisitions are a different breed. You can't hand over a company without explicit consent.
Now, hold on. We were told that this would be sufficient.
the clerk shakes his head and passes the documents back.
Mr. Queen is in unreachable prison for the rest of his life. How are we supposed to get that kind of consent?
To be declared dead before his estate is released.
Cross and Hackett share knowing glances. Interior, the whole solitary confinement day, blackness. Sounds of breathing, labored at first, but gradually calming to a steady rhythm. We get a glimpse of Queen, now aged what must be a few weeks. On his face is a fair amount of stubble. His skin is pale. His fingernails have grown considerably. He holds one up to another. He's using them to measure time. With one of his buttons, he etches a vertical mark on the wall alongside several others, counting the days. 20. Later, Queen's bloodshot eyes, watching as the hatch opens and his food slides in. He jumps at it, reaching for the guard's hands, only to be electroshocked. Through his parallax device, he falls back, gripping his arm in pain, kicks the tray in frustration, laughter on the other side of the door. Later, Queen sleeping, his body having given way to deterioration, lack of sunlight, lack of physical contact, utter insanity. On the door, beneath the crack, vague light emanates. Movement punctuates its steady glow. Small creatures slipping under. Ants! Hundreds of them. Queen shoos them away, but they persist, walking in a circle and then stopping, frozen as if sensing his presence. They are forming a shape. Words on the floor, a sentence it reads, "Talk to me."
Talk to who?
The ants reconfigure themselves. You are not alone.
You're not real.
Track in along the line of ants, finally squeezing beneath the crack of the door through the corridor outside isolation. Interior main stem corridor continuous, tracking along the ground into the hallways through the legs of heavily armed guards, beneath another set of doors. Interior A block corridor continuous, moving past cell after cell, finding our way to interior Hartley's prison cell continuous. Hartley Hathaway. 60s. A sly intellectual affectation and enough dignity to show he's had this fair share of battles. His eyes are pale green. He can hear through the ants. We recognize him as the older prisoner from the yard.
Very real indeed, Mr. Queen.
Interior of the hole, solitary confinement continuous. Queen stares down at the ants. Very real indeed.
Who are you?
Note, the following conversation will be split between two screens as the two men speak through this medium of exchange. The ants will not be on screen. Rather, it will seem as if the men are speaking directly to each other.
My name is Hartley Rathaway. They once called me the Pied Piper. I've been in Supermax since the beginning.
Queen nudges the ants. They immediately go back into play.
You talk to ants.
All creatures that can be manipulated by high sonic frequencies.
Queen violently kicks away at the ants, trying to dispel them. They instantly pull back into formation.
What do you want from me?
Your trust, your faith, and your willing partnership in our escape.
Now he's got Queen's interest.
Sorry, I'm not a villain.
That doesn't matter. No man belongs in this place. Good or bad, we're all victims within these walls, raped by the inhumanity. It's the souls they're violating. That's why we must escape, so the world can see this injustice.
You brought this on yourselves. All of you deserve to be in Supermax.
I thought that the Green Arrow was a crusader.
The Green Arrow is dead.
Hartley shakes his head slowly.
No, he just needs to change. Tell me how you became the Green Arrow.
On Queen, remembering as we flash cut to exterior tropical desert island 12 years earlier. The younger Queen awake on a beach, drenched in his tuxedo and hung over as hail. He looks around, an empty island, dense jungle all around, no club meds.
I was stuck in a place where a checkbook couldn't save me.
Exterior jungle night. Queen huddles against a tree, vomiting his guts out. Beside him is a bush full of half-eaten berries. He wipes his mouth, kicks the berries away. So much for dinner. In the distance, the cries of a boar. Queen huddles closer. Exterior beachfront day. A boar stands near a shrub, chewing away at the vegetation. Just then behind it, a wooden spear darts through the air. It strikes the boar and bounces off, not even piercing the skin. The boar runs away. Queen emerges from the jungle, disheartened. Exterior jungle evening. Queen works relentlessly on carving out thin projectiles from nearby sticks. He notches the backs. Then he assembles a bow using dry balsa wood and a spindle of coconut fibers as string. He bends it carefully, slowly, until it snaps and slices his hand. Blood flows immediately. Exterior jungle day. A herd of boars runs wildly from an unseen attacker. Emerging from the woods is Queen! More muscular now, drawing back on the bow with powerful hands and firing. The arrow darts confidently across the landscape, striking a male boar. The creature slides to a stop.
So you built yourself from nothing.
Exterior beachfront night. Queen cooks the boar over an open fire using a dangling spit he has rigged from a tree. He thoroughly enjoys his meal. Exterior Star City Seaport day 3 years later. Throngs of reporters surround the dock as an exhausted Queen is escorted off a Coast Guard cutter. He shields his eyes from the flashbulb.
And when they found you 3 years later, you were a changed man. You understood the reason behind your simple existence. Yes?
Interior the whole solitary confinement today. Queen nods slowly.
Finally knew who I was.
Good. Let me help you find yourself again.
Interior confinement monitoring booth day. A guard watches Queen's image in night vision, where we all can see is him, seemingly talking to the floor.
Check it out. He's losing it.
Interior the whole solitary confinement day. Weeks have passed. Queen uses a sharpened piece of concrete flooring to shave off his long beard.
The Green Arrow is dead, but he can be reborn. He is the only man who can show the world that cages like this should never exist.
Interior Hartley's prison cell day. Hartley stares at the sliver of sunlight moving across his wall from the portal window.
None of us deserve Supermax. Deep down, you know it is true.
Interior the whole solitary confinement day. Lights flood in. Officer Panati enters. He dangles a long set of chains.
All that remains is a question for you, Oliver Queen.
Queen sits in the corner, smiling and healthy.
Can you build yourself from nothing once again? Can you learn to trust those you once despised?
Queen stares up at Panati, proud and unafraid. He sticks his hand out, waiting for the cuffs. Interior main stem corridor later. The guards escort Queen down the hallway. He passes Split, mopping the floor, and winks. Split smiles back. Overhead, from the catwalk, Amanda Waller looks down at him, trying to read his thoughts. Interior Queen's prison cell night. The cell door is closed behind Queen. Aunt Hartley staring at him from across the way. They make eye contact and smile. Dissolve to Interior Queen Industries high-rise penthouse day. Hackett stares out at the Star City skyline, hands pursed behind his back, conflicted and pensive. Behind him, his luxurious new offices. Assistants running back and forth, power embodied. Your guest has arrived. Interior Hackett's private office. Moments later, several federal marshals, rifles cocked and ready, stand in a wide circle around a single prisoner, just arrested, still in plain clothes, bound in chains. 2 boots are kicked up on the desk, spurs on the edges, the same ones we saw go after Colonel Khalid. Wider to reveal, Arthur King, aka Merlyn, 40s, an assassin. Compact build, but with the kind of hands that warn you not to cut him any slack. Hackett opens up a folder on his desk. Merlyn's record images of him in full black costume, firing arrows off rooftops, newspaper headlines pertaining to his capture.
So, Merlyn, sentenced to Supermax, 3 counts of felony first degree. League of Assassins turned you in?
We're not a very loyal bunch.
Hackett dismisses the federal marshals. They walk out and close the door behind them.
Shouldn't I be going to jail right now?
My associate has considerable pull with the federal legal apparatus.
Hackett rises and walks to his window.
What would you say if I could offer you a way out of Supermax? A transfer maybe to a more relaxed facility.
I'd say power buys a lot of nice things these days.
Hackett stares at the skyline in silence, ignoring him.
Let me guess. I provide Queen's head. Your friend provides the sunlight?
All you'll ever need.
One condition. If they're going to put me away for this, I want everyone to know it was me that brought the Green Arrow down.
You really hate him, don't you?
I'm sick of being second best.
Hackett nods knowingly. He couldn't agree more.
What about you? Weren't you his best friend? What made you turn?
Hackett straightens his suit, cold and empty.
He had the whole world. And he wouldn't share it.
Interior Supermax, men's shower room day. Queen stands among several prisoners beneath the giant shower heads. He stares at the wall, deep in thought. Whispers around him. Various faucets turning on. Hot water vaporizes and obscures the security cameras. One by one, the silhouetted figures begin to walk away. As Queen rinses his face and opens his eyes, he notices he's all alone. And then he ducks, just as a fist slams into the porcelain tile in front of him. Several huge men pounce and drag him across the slick, wet floor. Queen desperately tries to grab hold of whatever he can. The attackers knock his hands loose and pick him up, finally shoving him against a wall to reveal the face of Blockbuster, wearing his orange uniform, soaking wet.
Green Arrow came to the wrong place.
He tosses him across the stall. Queen looks around. The security cameras are still obscured by the vapor. Thinking fast, he withdraws into the mist.
Where'd he go?
Queen, still hiding, sees an electric socket nearby. He yanks it from its bolt. Wires come out. He wraps them around each other. A hand suddenly jams against his throat. Blockbuster emerges.
Ain't nobody gonna lift a finger for you.
Just then, Queen grabs onto the shower faucet overhead and lifts his feet off the ground. With his other hand, he drops the wires, which he has pulled into a long enough coil so that they hit the wet floor surface. Blockbuster and the other hulking attackers suddenly scream out and drop under the electric shock they've just been delivered. They convulse wildly. The circuit eventually shorts out and the current stops. Queen drops down, steps over the bodies, wreathing on the ground, and grabs a towel off the rack.
I can help myself. Thanks.
Interior cafeteria day, Queen sits next to Hartley. At a table across the room, Blockbuster and his thugs glare at him from afar. Some of their hair has fallen out. From the look on their faces, they're not afraid of him. They're now afraid of him.
I see you've been making friends.
Queen shrugs. He holds up his wrist, studying the parallax device embedded in his forearm.
Have you ever had a battery replaced on one of these?
Not once in 7 years.
It means they take their power locally, which means they have a radius of operation, which means if we got outside that radius, we'd disappear.
We need to blank the system. Short out the tracking grid. Put the alarms offline.
And who could do that?
On Hartley, smiling knowingly. Interior A-block corridor day. Tracking through the corridor during rec hour, uninhabited except for those few who remain in their cells.
Class 5, the most uncontainable of all prisoners, locked down 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Slow zoom on one cell in particular, a sealed door with a single vent pointed outside.
Counted among this group is a man they call Djinn.
Through the door, into the cell of Djinn, 30s, a dark-skinned Arab with a shaved head and shaved eyebrows. In fact, he has no body hair whatsoever. He sits cross-legged in the corner.
He holds a mortal form, but is capable, upon access to technology, of translating himself into something else.
On Djinn's eyes, millions of ones and zeros inside, binary code software.
Remember the Manhattan blackout?
Exterior Times Square, New York City, flashback. The bright plasma displays suddenly shut off. The city's power grid has melted down. On a large monitor, we get a brief shot of Djinn's free-floating digital from moving through the pixels. Interior cafeteria today. Queen is starting to get it.
So, we upload him into the system.
And we have an EMP.
They look at each other and smile.
How can we get to him?
Exterior recreation yard day. Hartley passes Queen a small wrapped bundle, which he takes without a word, eyes on the guard towers. Queen walks over to the picnic benches, where, sitting alone, is a compact man with a shaved head and tattoos covering his entire body. His name was once the Tattooed Man, but now he goes by Amell, Tarrant, 30s.
I hear you're the man who can get me anything.
When the getting's good. Queen passes him a handwritten list, a conductor, preferably lithium, pre-cut holes and joints, and LED, a crystal oscillator, a storage switch device, and a stick of gum. Can't do the oscillator, only simple technology. But the components are easy. What's the stick of gum for?
Old habit.
And if I can get all of this? Queen opens up the bundle Hartley just gave him, which contains several flex cards. A week's worth of food. Tarrant quickly takes them. Lengthways along his arm, we notice the tattoo of a snake. He rubs it gently. Suddenly, the snake tattoo literally comes alive. It slithers across his palm like a creature. He caresses the serpent's head. It'll take me a few days, then I gotta wipe it clean. They scan me every morning for new link. That'll cost extra. Queen passes him a few more flex cards and then walks away. Interior Queen's prison cell night. Queen sits calmly on his bed, holding a t-shirt as he stares out through the bars at whom? His cell being lifted by the prisoner's inner hydraulics, which pull apart and begin to rearrange. Queen's eyes survey the giant black void, watching the cells floating through space and slamming back into a new configuration. He looks down at his lap, where from his t-shirt he has torn off multiple threads and woven a complex maze-like tapestry, mimicking the paths of the cells. Exterior recreation yard day. Queen and Hartley walk in a slow circle, keeping close to a ruckus game of touch football in the center of the track. Orange suits use all their powers to compete. Guys with super strength knock people out of the way. Speedsters catch up to them. At one point, the ball is passed to a man fans will recognize as Multiplex 20s. He replicates himself into 4 identical versions, confusing the defense, and crosses to the end zone. Everyone cheers! Queen and Hartley make sure their voices blend into the din of the crowd, on the shotgun mics, getting nothing but crowd noise.
So we're looking at a cycle repeat every 9 days.
It's supposed to discourage escape.
Hartley observes the weave that Queen has put together. Then he hands it back and glances up towards the dome shape of the prison behind them.
All we need is a way out of the shell.
Queen watches the flock of pigeons flying off into the sky. We have no idea what he's thinking. Interior cafeteria day. Queen walks in line, casually taking food under the watchful eyes of the guards. He discreetly grabs a handful of salt packets and shoves them into his pocket. Nearby, Gemini watches curiously. Interior laundry room day. Tarrant works in the laundry room, passing bags back and forth. One of the guards leaves something on the counter as he walks by. A Walkman cassette player. Tarrant makes eye contact with him as he takes it and shoves it into one of his bags. Interior prison library day. Hartley pretends to read a book while approaching a wall panel. It's loose. Behind it is a small hole in the concrete, chewed out by rats so carefully that the alarm wires have been avoided. Hartley kneels quietly and closes his eyes. Moments later, several rats pop their heads through. He nods approvingly and replaces the panel. Interior Tarrant's prison cell night. Tarrant pulls apart the Walkman, takes what he needs, the motor, the spindles, the internal gears. He reaches beneath his mattress and pulls out a contraband BIC pen, removes the shell, extracts the ink duct, and fuses it to the end of a paperclip. This he attaches to a roll of masking tape wrapped around the Walkman motor. Within moments, he has constructed a homemade tattoo kit. He uses it to apply the ink. Exterior recreation yard day. In a corner of the yard, Tarrant discreetly lifts his shirt, where we see new tattoos, the items requested by Queen. He closes his eyes, and one by one, the items become three-dimensional. Falling off his skin and landing at his feet, he discreetly shoves the pieces into his pocket. Interior men's shower room day. Queen grabs a towel. He sees folded within it are the parts he requested, perfectly constructed replicas. Tarrant eyes him nearby, drying his tattooed body in the mirror. He's got a few scars where he recently scraped clean his new tattoos. Queen nods a thank you.
Go for it.
Yes. Interior recreation yard day. Queen lifts weights at the bench press while Hartley feeds breadcrumbs to pigeons. The birds coo, coo, lightly, providing enough noise to distill the shotgun mic sensors of Queen and Hartley speak in low enough voices.
These are Samoan pigeons, Pacific Ocean.
Queen pulls out a small pouch that he has woven out of a tube sock. He grabs some bird droppings and scoops them up.
You've got strange hobbies, Queen.
When the system goes haywire, there's going to be a lockdown. All doors frozen. We won't be able to move.
Which is why we need someone who can get through those doors to let us out.
Interior prison library day. On split, sorting books beside the desk of the library. He speaks in a hushed voice, keeping an eye on the guards above.
I mean, all due respect, because respect is always due here, but you're out of your freaking mind, man.
Split rolls up his sleeve to reveal the parallax device beneath his skin.
Do you see this thing? If I so much as walk through a screen door, I get zapped. Now think about what could happen if I tried to run through 3 feet of steel.
Queen discreetly shakes his head. Split double takes.
What?
Interior A-block corridor evening. Queen and Hartley walk together back towards their cells under the watchful eyes of the surveillance cameras. They chew on snacks, keeping their mouths full as they speak.
Once we're in the Pacific, we're gonna need a way home. Someone who can manipulate the currents.
Hartley stops in front of his cell with a glass door sealed off. Another class 5.
So I'd like you to meet a friend of mine. Her name is Cascade.
Inside the cell, a gorgeous woman bathes in a small tub of water. Her nude body morphs between flesh and liquid as she stands and wraps herself in a towel. Cascade, 20s, beautiful Indian features.
Cascade was responsible for the attack on the French Riviera last year.
Exterior beach flashback. Vacationers flee in terror as behind them a tidal wave rises up in the shape of Cascade's face. Interior A-block corridor today. Queen looks at her skeptically. Then he shakes his head.
No.
We need her help.
42 people died in that tidal wave. There's no way I'm siding with her.
Hartley, maybe he doesn't have what it takes to be one of us.
Is that supposed to be an insult?
Stare off angrily. Hartley pulls Queen aside.
Oliver, listen to me. We don't have a choice here. She's our best option.
Queen points an indignant finger at Cascade.
It's going to be on you. You hear me?
I look forward to it.
He pushes past Harley and storms off. Below, Gemini watches this interaction with great interest. Interior laundry room day. Queen pushes a cart filled with towels. Gemini pushes her own cart nearby.
Hey, we never really met. I'm Gemini.
I already know who you are.
Exterior nightclub flashback. Armed police sprint into a nightclub as panicked spectators run out. One of them morphs into a body of Gemini, who walks calmly from the scene of the crime. Interior laundry room today. Gemini creeps closer. Keeping her eye on the guards overhead, she discreetly passes him. A children's drawing of a sun setting over a lush green landscape.
They allow gifts once a year on your birthday. It's from my daughter.
Queen turns the paper over to see she has scrawled a note. I know what you're planning.
She's 8. Wish I could see her again.
Queen indifferently folds up the drawing and walks away.
I can't help you.
Interior A block corridor night. 100 prisoners sit on the main floor of Broadway watching a movie projected onto a hanging canvas sheet. Armed guards keep lookout from the gallery above. Queen, Hartley, and Split speak in low voices, their eyes on the screen.
One missing detail. Buoyancy. We'd be able to float us home.
I can't teleport that far.
Queen gives him a look.
Hey, I'm a C-list villain. What do you expect?
We need someone who could freeze water.
Hartley indicates over his shoulder where Cameron McKent lies inside his glass-encased cell on the second floor watching from his bunk.
Absolutely not. He wants me dead.
Doesn't everyone?
This team is getting worse by the minute.
Queen reluctantly stands up, looks at the guard above.
Permission to return to my cell?
The guard nods. They keep their eyes on him as he climbs the stairs and heads towards his bunk. On the way, he stops in front of McKent's cell.
"9242, keep moving."
You heard the man.
Look, you don't like me and I don't like you. Unfortunately, this thing we've got going is making it hard for us to get the one thing we both want.
What exactly is that?
Queen says nothing, instead distracting his eyes upwards as if to indicate flight. McKent laughs.
You gotta be joking.
9242, you listening to me?
2 guards start coming towards Queen. He starts to leave, but McKent holds up a finger.
Coming to me like this, that makes you one of us now, don't it?
Queen just stares back at him. McKent extends his hand through a sealed rubber office that gives him orifice that gives him access to the outside, waits for the handshake. After a long beat, Queen takes it. Interior guards quarters night. Officer Panati removes his uniform and places it into a locker. The guard sticks his head in.
Panati, call for you.
Interior guards quarters VidCon booth moments later. Panati closes the partition behind him, makes sure he's alone, hits the receive button.
This is an open line.
On screen, we see the face of Marcus Cross.
It's encrypted, don't worry. Your debts are almost paid, Officer Panati. There's just one more thing I'd like for you to do. Then your son's record gets erased. No questions asked.
Panati leans closer, ready to listen. Exterior A-block corridor, early morning. The entire block of prisoners are asleep when suddenly they hear metal clanking sounds coming from Broadway below. Low angle, heavy chains dangling in front of our vision. Footsteps marching ominously.
Incoming. New blood.
Queen looks through his bars to see the guards escorting a new prisoner, shackled, naked, carrying his clothes. Except this is a familiar face. Merlyn! Prisoners catcall him as he walks by, but he's nonplussed. This is a man on a mission. Interior Merlyn's prison cell moments later. Merlyn's chains are removed, and the guards walk out. Panati is the last to leave. He gives him a knowing look. Merlyn eyes his toilet, glances at the security camera overhead. Finally, he leans over the bowl and retches. Except while he's doing this, he's secretly reaching into his mouth and unlatches a false tooth. Something is tied to it. A length of wire. He pulls it at it longer and longer, revealing that he had slipped an entire metal cord down his throat to evade detection. Exterior recreation yard day. Merlyn sits alone on a bench, his eyes not betraying any of his calculated thoughts. Queen approaches, keeping his distance.
Merlyn, you don't get caught unless you want to. So I take it this is about us.
People don't like you on the outside.
You killed Khaled, didn't you?
Merlyn smiles deviously.
Should have known. No one else rips off my MO like you. Are you working for Cross?
I don't steal your MO.
Queen pauses. Merlyn glares at him angrily.
I've seen your accuracy. Mine's better. And green's a terrible color. You should have worn black. Someday, people won't remember you. They'll think of me, because when this is over, I'll be the last man standing.
Queen turns and leaves. Beneath the bench, Merlyn is discreetly tearing off plies of wood. He keeps his arms out of sight, not betraying any signs of activity for the cameras. Interior men's shower room day. Queen stares at his reflection in the sink. Hartley is next to him, drying his face with a towel.
Time's getting tight.
We're almost ready.
Interior laundry room day, Merlyn casually pushes a basket. He bends over to tie his shoe, but then he reaches to the bottom of his cart and removes 2 wheels. He opens up his shoe's rubber sole. It's been hollowed out and slips both wheels inside. Interior Queen's prison cell night. Queen sits alone in his cell, working discreetly under his covers. One by one, he opens the salt packets he has stolen and pours each into a tube sock filled with pigeon droppings. Across the way, he catches sight of Merlyn, sitting in his own cell, silent, focused, eerie. Beneath Merlyn's covers, unseen by Queen, he is fashioning something of his own, small, shaped bolts, bits from the weight rooms around the recreation yard. Interior prison library night. Hartley, mopping the floor on janitor duty, casually pushes the bucket past a wall. Through the panel, the rats continue to chew relentlessly. Exterior recreation yard day. Closing time. Prisoners are beginning to file out. Queen and Swit stand across the yard from Hartley, who looks at them, hands in his pockets, and subtly toes a line in the sand.
What's that mean?
It means it's time.
Interior Queen's prison cell evening. Queen sits alone in his cell. He hears a scurrying noise at his feet and looks down to see a line of ants.
You still up?
Interior Hartley's prison cell continuous. Hartley leans up on his cot, his eyes glowing green. Note, the following conversation will once again employ split screen to evoke Hartley's communication with the Queen.
Confession for you. I once tried to detonate Los Angeles with a nuclear warhead.
Why are you telling me this?
I wanted to make sure there were no illusions. I'm a criminal, just like the rest of them.
Queen nods thoughtfully and then,
Are you sorry for what you did?
Every day.
Queen thinks about this for a long beat. Then he smiles.
You know that I never told anyone how I got off that island?
Exterior tropical desert island flashback. A rowboat has just drifted to shore, complete with oars and an emergency food ration. But we're not looking at that. Our eyes are on a hysterical man, torn clothing, eyes bugging out with hunger, wrestling violently with the younger Queen, who has clearly been surprised by the attack. The man has his hands on Queen's throat, squeezing powerfully, about to kill him when Queen reaches for a nearby arrow and jams it through his throat. The man falls sideways. Queen gasps for breath and looks over the dying man. The life runs out of his eyes. Queen can't believe what he's done. Then he turns to the rowboat. Interior Queen's prison cell today. On Queen, the memories flooding back.
He was a drug runner, using the island as an opium farm. I wasn't thinking, it was just pure instinct.
You sinned for a greater good.
Like releasing prisoners into the world just so I can solve a murder.
Once the true sinners have been exposed, you will earn back your righteousness.
Queen smiles as the ants scurry out of the cell. Interior McKenn's prison cell continuous. McKenn stares down at an old photograph, the image of a girlfriend, a long time ago, a life he's going back to. Interior Cascade's prison cell continuous. Cascade lies on her bed, staring straight up at the ceiling. Her hand dangles, dripping water steadily onto the floor. Interior Split's prison cell continuous. Split nervously taps his feet on the ground. On his wrist, the indicator light from the parallax device shines through his skin. He watches and waits. Interior Queen's prison cell continuous. Queen sits on the edge of his cot, staring straight ahead at the drawing from Gemini's daughter on the wall. A distant sunset, an open landscape. After a long beat, he looks down at his hands, clenches them into his fists. It's time. Interior main stem corridor night. The door's open for Queen, who walks forward and waits patiently on the yellow line. A guard approaches and hands him a sponge and a bucket.
Janitor duty tonight. I want that floor so clean you could eat off it.
Interior Merlyn's prison cell night. Merlyn awakes to the sound of a SIM card being inserted into his lock. He sits up to see Officer Panati waiting expectantly.
Camera's been cut. You've got 1 hour.
Merlyn sits up and tears open his mattress, revealing what he has been keeping inside. Found parts. Pipes from the showers to form each ridge of a compound hunting bow. Wheels from the laundry carts to form the tension mount. For the arrow, he's managed to shave down wood pieces, complete with sharpened metal bits as the tips. For the razor wire, the one piece hard to find in a prison, he attaches the length of cord he brought inside of him. Interior A-block corridor later. Queen cleans the polished floor as he makes his way down Broadway. It's dead quiet in here. He passes one cell, pushing the bucket along. Inside is Gemini, curled up in her bed and asleep. Queen lingers, observing a rare moment of vulnerability. On the wall behind her are several drawings from her daughter. He rounds a corner and finds himself in front of the cell he's looking for, closed off, sealed like a sarcophagus. 1803, Djinn. Queen kneels before her, pretending to scrub the floor while he pulls out an aluminum piece and angles it toward the security eye mounted on the wall. Light reflects off of it, causing a glare that, interior security tracking room continuous, obscures the view of the camera. It's subtle, but the light blocks any view of what's happening on the monitor. The guard watching the dozen monitors doesn't even notice. Interior A-block corridor continuous. Queen stares into Djinn's portal.
You don't know me, but you want to.
Something tells me that's no lie.
Queen reaches into his pocket and reveals a flash drive. Straight aluminum construction, complete with a crystal oscillator and LED. This is what he built out of the parts Tarrant gave it. It's rough, but it does the job. Djinn's eyes light up with anticipation. Binary numbers move back and forth in his pupils at rapid speed.
Going to inject you into a terminal. You know what to do from there?
What I do best.
Queen spits out the gum he's been chewing and jams it into the hinge of the door. Then he takes two wires protruding from the flash drive and sticks them into the wall. The drive lights up, indicating connection to a conductor. Djinn presses his hands against the cold steel door, and then something amazing begins to happen. A transformation. A metamorphosis from human form into his binary state. Real becoming virtual. He flickers on and off, shrinking away into space, using the current from the door to carry himself through the node of the flash drive. The drive's LED begins blinking steadily. Inside the cell, Djinn has disappeared.
Still with me?
The LED blinks twice in response. Queen removes the wires from the disc and slips it into his pocket. Interior security tracking room continuous. The door opens behind the guard and Officer Panati enters. He carries a cup of coffee.
Courtney, take a break. I'll sit in.
The guard gratefully complies. Panati watches Queen moving into the laundry room. On separate monitors, he sees Merlyn stalking through the halls. He turns off the monitors. Interior laundry room night. Queen makes his way through the loud industrial washers stacked up to the high ceiling. A noise behind him. For a moment, he can't detect it above the din of the machines, but then he realizes he's being followed. Sound cuts through the night. A vague whiff getting closer at a high speed. Queen hears it coming. Anyone else would miss it, but Queen ducks just as an arrow lodges itself into a machinery directly next to him. That's when he sees emerging from the catwalk above, Merlyn, holding the bow in his hands, wearing a quiver of arrows across his back. He points upwards and fires towards the halogen lamps overhead, immersing Queen in pitch darkness. Now arrows come at him rapidly. It's all he can do to run from their path. One lodges itself into the floor just inches from his feet.
It's over, Queen.
Queen hits a wall, out of real estate, when he turns and grabs an arrow mid-flight. What? Just before it hits his chest, he snaps it in half. Merlyn emerges from the darkness, having climbed down to his level. His bow is drawn, ready to deliver the killing blow. Queen reaches behind him and grabs from a workbin a steel plate used to weld broken pipes shut.
Framing you was one thing, but killing you, it doesn't get any better.
Merlyn releases his shot just as Queen raises the steel plate and uses it to divert the arrow, which slices sideways, hitting a slanted pipe at perfectly planned angle, causing it to ricochet in the other direction, straight back at Merlyn. It slices through his cheeks, shattering teeth and flesh on its way out. Merlyn screams bloody murder. Queen grabs him by the collar.
How much did Cross pay you?
Merlyn can barely speak through his injury. Queen shakes him harder, and then alarm bells ring out. Emergency lights slam on, red and disorienting. Guards sprint out onto the catwalk, armed with lethal assault rifles. Officer Panati's at the lead.
Take 'em, boys.
They open fire, shooting bullets in every direction. Queen grabs Merlyn's quiver as well as the bow. then athletically leaps backward behind cover. He crawls on his hands and knees as the guards continue to fire over his head. He reaches into his pocket and removes the flash drive. The LED still blinks. Ahead of him, a USB terminal on the locked door. It's not ideal, but this will have to do. He sprints straight for the terminal and slams the disc into the access point. Zoom in through the terminal as Djinn's binary form enters the system with a gasp of energy. We can hear him unleashing fury, bellowing out the wrath of a demon. And within moments, even the emergency lights shut off. The prison is immersed in total fucking chaos. Rah! Okay. Interior Waller's suite continuous. Waller groggily comes into her control room just in time to see all the monitors go out. Interior A block corridor continuous. Prisoners embrace the madness. Split checks the indicator light shining through his skin. With a whimper and a gasp, the parallax device blanks out.
Oh, right on!
He stares at the bars in front of him, and within moments, he is standing on the other side. Meanwhile, in her cell, Cascade sits up and casually walks towards the acrylic glass, melting into water and pouring through the cracks of the seal. Interior main stem corridor continuous. Powerful airlock doors clamp shut in sequence down the corridor. Emergency lockdowns operating on a separate electrical grid. Queen, with the quiver on his back, sprints through these doors, leaping through each narrowing gap one after another. Interior security tracking room continuous. Waller runs into the room as dozens of technicians try to desperately gain control of the situation.
We have a virus! How long till the grid goes back online?
Interior main stem corridor continuous. Split runs through walls, reaching the pulley and lever and system that operates the cell doors and yanking them open. Interior A block corridor continuous. Prisoners rush Broadway, cheering enthusiastically. Yeah! Anarchy ensues. Hartley and McKent emerge from their cells and push through the crowd. Cascade joins them. Elsewhere, Shock Trauma is going nuts with his restored power, firing bolts of electricity in every direction when Blockbuster grabs him by the neck and crushes his larynx. Interior main stem corridor. Moments later, Queen reunites with Hartley, Cascade, and McKent as they emerge from A block.
Let's get to the library.
They push down the corridor. Behind them, McKent pauses. He looks down at his hands, forming ice over his fingertips into the shape of a sharp projectile, which he raises and hurls straight at Queen's back. Before it can meet its intended destination, Cascade reaches out and grabs it midair, dissolving it into her own liquid form. She stares at him for a long bait.
We still need him.
Queen turns. McKent glares at him.
Breaking out doesn't make us even.
Next time, don't miss.
Interior prison library continuous. The group gets to the outside of the library, which has been sealed shut by a reinforced hatch. It's still locked.
Where's your teleporter?
Oh, guys!
They turn to see Split coming towards them, out of breath from all the running.
Let's get the hell out of...
Look out!
A fist suddenly punches through Split's chest. He stares down in disbelief at the hand gaping through his wide wind cavity, blood dripping from its fingers. Then the fist withdraws and Split hits the ground, revealing Blockbuster, standing over his corpse, staring straight at Queen.
I want a ticket on this field trip.
Hartley drops to his knees.
You just killed our way out.
What, to get through this?
He jams his fingers into the doorbolt, prying around the edges of the hatch and using his incredible strength to pull back on the sliding mechanism, creating an opening.
Make your call, Queen. Go with me? Don't.
Queen and Hartley exchange nervous looks. They've got no choice. Together with McKenna and Cascade, they sprint through the opening.
This isn't over.
Interior airlock threshold continuous. Blockbuster lets go and the door slams shut behind them. Just as it does, yet another emergency door kicks in and seals in front of them. Queen bangs on the plate glass. Blockbuster pushes him away, raising his fist to punch it, only to find, wham! It has been reinforced even beyond his strength.
We can't do this without Split.
Queen stares hopelessly through the door towards the corridor beyond. Then appearing on the other side is a guard. Approaching them quickly, he seems to have some kind of purpose on his mind. And then he suddenly transforms into Gemini, who opens the door for them.
You owe me one.
Interior security tracking room moments later. The technicians work several cell phones, trying to get a handle on the situation.
How much longer? I'm isolating the virus, containing it on the firewall partition.
We're back! Overhead, the lights come back on. Interior A-block corridor, continuous. Lockdown is rapidly reinstated. Cell doors slam shut again. The corridor is sealed off. The rioting comes to a halt. Prisoners who are able to wield their superpowers are now finding their parallax devices working again. Every inmate goes into intense epileptic shock. Interior security tracking room, continuous. Waller studies the various surveillance monitors with a finely tuned scrutiny. She barely regards the hordes of inmates convulsing on top of each other.
The tracking grid is back online! Queen, where's Oliver Queen?
Off the image of Queen's empty cell we dissolve to, interior Supermax, baptism gallery later. Waller and Officer Bonatti waiting in front of a vault door. It slowly irises open and in walk Checkmate trackers. The most badass Spec Ops team we've ever seen. These guys are no joke, decked out in Kevlar, high-tech weaponry, and scars all over their faces. You only call them when shit has hit the fan, and it just hit. Their leader approaches Waller.
Hear you lost some puppies.
Interior prison library later. The soldiers storm the library with their weapons trained. Empty, silent as a tomb.
No one's home.
Interior security tracking room, continuous. Waller watches this operation via the surveillance monitors. She coordinates with the tracking grid next to her. 6 blips frozen in one area, tracked via the parallax devices.
The grid shows them clustered together behind the adjunct vent on the east side. 6 devices. Vitals are gone.
Interior prison library, continuous. The guards direct their weapons to a nearby bookshelf propped against the wall. They creep closer, finally kicking it over to reveal a gaping hole in the wall.
Holy shit.
The leader leans closer just as frats crawl out, their lips covered in human blood. On the ground in front of them are 6 parallax devices.
Waller, you've got a breach.
Exterior suspended spherical void, continuous. Queen and the others emerge from the rat-chewed hole and crawl out onto a smooth chrome surface. Their arms are bandaged where the rats ate out their devices. Wire to reveal, they're standing on an expansive plane in the middle of...
Holy shit.
a giant void, containing hundreds of massive floating shapes. Various facilities and prison cells, plus tubes for hallways, constantly moving via hydraulic arms. This is what we caught a glimpse of whenever the cells are reconfiguring. Queen consults the weave he's put together. A cube lowers near the edge of the plane they're standing on.
There. Hurry.
He sprints towards the edge of the plane and leaps, grabbing onto the edge of the cube as it swings by. The others follow one by one. Hartley has the most trouble, but Gemini reaches back and pulls him up. The cube swings wide through the gaping space, getting close enough to another large block, which Queen points to, and once again, they make another leap. This happens a few more times, Queen using his map to lead them, the team closer and closer to a catwalk, wrapping around the gaping edge of the spherical dome. Everyone lands there and collapses, gasping for breath.
Where to now, fearless leader?
Queen sees ahead of them a hatch, marked simply, exit, sealed shut by heavy bolts. He reaches into his pockets and pulls out several tube socks, each filled with his pigeon-dropping composite.
What the hell is that?
Bird shit.
He takes out one of Merlyn's arrows and strikes it against the wall, creating a spark that he uses to light each sock on fire. Then he plants them into the hatch and backs away as kaboom! It explodes! Shards of metal rain down around them.
Decomposed, mixed with sodium, nasty explosive.
Exterior other side of the latch. Hatch. Moments later, daylight pounds down. The hatch props open, slowly at first, but wider. Queen pops his head out. He shields his eyes from the light. Hears something. Sounds of pigeons cooing. Coo. That's when he sees, hovering directly above him, a giant cage filled with hundreds of pigeons, all then suspended from the ceiling of a massive interior space. Queen's eyes slowly widen as he realizes they are inside yet another dome. And not just any dome. An enormous LCD screen covers the ceiling, creating a panorama as far as the eye can see, half a mile in diameter. On it is a projection of a blue sky with an ocean flowing beneath.
Tell me that's not the Pacific Ocean? Ladies and gents, we've been had.
Where the hell are we?
Cascade sees pipes threaded across the surface of the dome above. She falls onto the floor.
Underground, the piping conduit must lead to the surface.
But we don't know where.
We don't have a choice anymore.
They stand over one of the pipes and Blockbuster punches through the round metal surface. Water explodes outwards, a rising duct. One by one they leap inside. Interior sea line main duct moments later. It's a tight fit, dark and wet, but Queen curls himself into a ball as he and the others ride the water pressure. They span a corner and dart vertically, the pressure firing them along. Daylight is rapidly approaching. A way out. Freedom!
Hold on!
Queen cups his hand over his head just as interior Supermax main walls day. Wham! The vent bursts open, carrying them through the air and finally landing on something hard. Queen rolls over. It's windy, exposed, cold. Something's dead wrong. Wider to reveal an Arctic surface. What they thought was some tropical island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean is in fact miles of icy terrain, stretching as far as the eye can see. Exterior and Antarctic surface continuous. Nope. Exterior Antarctic surface continuous on a mountain face behind them. A giant wall begins to lift. It's a hidden hydraulic vault. A hangar opening up. Noises of bloodhounds barking. The Checkmate soldiers wearing heavy snow gear. A convoy of vehicles accelerates towards them. High-tech all-terrain machines. Snowcats, mono wheels, giant wheels where the drivers sit inside. And snowhawks, motorcycles.
We've got to go.
Go where?
Cascade takes a step but freezes midair. Her liquid leg has iced solid. The extreme cold rises up her body.
Hartley,
But her face freezes before she can utter another word. Hartley can't believe his eyes. The silence is broken by thoop, thoop. Bullets hitting the snow around the inmates. One of the slugs strikes Cascade's body and shatters her into 1,000 pieces. Everyone starts to run, but Queen holds his ground. The Snowhawks bear down on him.
Queen, what are you doing?
His focus narrows. He reaches to Merlyn's quiver on his back and draws a single arrow. His only one. He bends back one of the parabolic guiding fins, precisely manipulating its shape. Then he plants an arrow in the bow and lets it go on the arrow, spiraling through the air and slicing through the heavy spokes of a Snowhawk. As it goes, the damaged guiding fin snaps off, causing the arrow to suddenly bank left and slice through the spokes of another Snowhawk. Both vehicles immediately careen sideways, hitting a third bike before all three crash into a snow bluff. Queen turns to the others, who watch him in amazement.
There's our ride.
Exterior Antarctic surface moments later. The injured Checkmate soldiers lie there, shivering, having been stripped of their snow gear. Ahead of them, 5 Snowhawks speed off into the distance. Queen, Hartley, Gemini, McKen, and Blockbuster. Overhead, a Checkmate helicopter soars by at full speed. The team leader looks down and sees the injured soldiers.
We've got men down on the surface. 5 Snowhawks on the run.
Interior security tracking room continuous. Waller watches all this from multiple monitors.
Stay on them.
Exterior Antarctic surface continuous. The helicopter sweeps low over the Snowhawks as the gunner leans out and opens fire. Bullets puncture the snow. McKen's vehicle gets hit in the fuel tank. He rapidly loses speed and control. The bike is about to crash when McKen leaps off and transforms into an icicle form. His body is now encased in a silver gleam, which gives him the ability to fly via his own ice wave several feet above the ground. He quickly catches up to Queen and the others. Meanwhile, another shot hits Gemini's bike, causing it to flip over and crash to a halt. Blockbuster rides right towards her. She lifts a hand for help, but he just kicks up snow and keeps going.
tough break, bitch.
Queen sees Gemini behind him, turns his Snowhawk around.
Queen, no, we've got to go.
He rides straight at her. Checkmate mono wheels bear down. Queen cuts a line directly in front of them, kicking up a heavy spray of snow, which momentarily blinds one of the pilots and causes him to divert his path right into an ice wall. Boom! The vehicle explodes, sending shrapnel flying in every direction. The other pilots slow down to allow for the visibility to clear. Queen pulls up next to Gemini and allows her to get on.
We're even.
The helicopter flies through the smoking wreckage.
Don't lose them.
They're enveloped in the thick black smoke. When they emerge on the other side, they see that the prisoners have disappeared. No tracks, no sign of the Snowhawks.
What the hell?
They touch down and the leader climbs out. They're gone.
They couldn't have gone far.
The team piles back from the helicopter and takes off. Below them, beneath the surface of the ice, we see movement. Interior under the ice continuous. McKent is using his powers to form a giant ice ceiling, protecting them from view of the surface.
Well, this is one hell of a plan, Green Arrow. I'm glad I came.
You're not even supposed to be here.
Queen opens up his glove compartment and pulls out a satellite terrain map.
Where are we?
Antarctica. 30 clicks south of Vincent Massive. But we don't have enough fuel to reach a shipping port.
We've got to try.
McKent laughs and breathes cold air over his hands.
Yeah, you do that, old man. In the meantime, I'm out of here.
Try finding your way without a map.
Queen strikes a lighter and holds it under the map. McKent charges. Hartley gets between them.
Enough! We don't have time for this. Any moment they're going to come back for us, and then when they do, we'd better be far from here. Does everyone understand?
Silence all around.
Whether we like it or not, we're a team now. That means we live together. That means we die together.
Exterior Antarctic surface later. Heavy snow pours down. The group travels on their snowhawks. Queen checks his fuel gauge, teetering on empty. All the vehicles finally slow to a stop. Everyone exchanges weary looks. Exterior Antarctic surface later. The group trudges on foot, shivering, exhausted, marching endlessly into the snowy haze. Queen checks the map. His hands are shaking. He can't see straight. Even McKent nearby is beginning to show signs of fatigue. Hartley drops. Queen and Gemini run over. Blockbuster turns to leave, but after a few steps, he too drops to his knees, out of breath, and finally collapses. Exterior Antarctic surface later. Queen's face is almost entirely buried in the snow. His cheeks are frozen over. From his point of view, we watch as the distant sun begins to gradually blur out. And then we see something. Movement. Silhouettes against the snowstorm. Two men in snow gear, emerging from metal hatchets on the surface. Later, a pulley system lowers their unconscious bodies into an industrial-looking bunker. The hatch seals shut, cutting us off from the harsh weather. Later, Queen's eyes open. He has no idea where he is. Then into his view comes Hartley, well-rested and peaceful.
Wake up, Mr. Queen. You're not home yet.
Queen abruptly sits up to find himself in Interior B6E Ice Station, guest quarters continuous. Some kind of sparsely decorated bunk room. Concrete floors, steel walls, scientific equipment everywhere. Hartley sits at the foot of the bed.
He's been out a few hours.
Queen stares at the wall, where he sees pictures of an older man and his grown son holding rifles.
Tell me something, Oliver. Do you really think we're all that bad?
Queen looks at Hartley, then suddenly he reaches out and grabs him by the throat.
Don't do that.
Hartley transforms into Gemini. Queen releases her, and she catches her breath.
I guess that answers the question.
Where are we?
Can't believe it myself. Come see.
Interior B6E Ice Station Gallery continues. Hartley, Blockbuster, and McKent eat oatmeal at a table while listening to a story told by Liam Blalock. 50s. A stout Irishman with large hands but kind eyes. He's in the middle of recounting a story about his teenage son Mick, 18, who sits silently nearby.
And then Mickey here. He's from Jersey now because Jen can't do an Irish accent. He grabs a hold of the piston and he starts yelling, "Poppy, the walls are coming down."
Everyone laughs hysterically. Queen and Gemini enter.
Oliver Queen, I'd like you to meet Liam Blalock. He's the one who rescued us.
You coming along all right, eh? You were out a while. Good thing we found you. Here, grab yourself a seat. Boy, get up. Forget about it.
Mick reluctantly moves to the back of the room. He's holding an old-fashioned army rifle. He doesn't trust the guests. Blaylock passes Queen a bowl of oatmeal.
Welcome to Beta 6 Echo, Ireland's last standing South Pole research station. I was just telling Mr. Blaylock about our mining expedition near Vincent Massive. Had some bad luck, eh? Or a stroke of good luck, so it happens finding us.
We're looking to get to the port. Can you help?
Sure thing. El, the boy and I, we can bring you there ourselves.
Queen and Hartley exchange knowing smiles.
Well, isn't this our lucky day?
Interior B6E ice station hangar later. A huge snowcat complete with enormous treads stands in the middle of a garage space. Mick leads Blockbuster and McKen inside.
Great mileage to the gallon. One trip to Horberg, back and forth. Get you where you need to go, no joke.
You make this trip a lot?
Every 6 months.
The boy turns his back to them, tinkering with the undercarriage. And as he does, Blockbuster reaches out and grabs a wrench, which he raises until McKen holds him by the wrist, freezing it as a warning.
These guys are our only way out. That means you stay cool.
Cool. Blockbuster relents, dropping the weapon. Interior B6E ice station corridors. Continuous. Gemini walks through the hallways when she notices something lining the ceiling above her. Fuse wire, stretching everywhere, connected at regular intervals to 8 ounces of C4. She studies it curiously. Interior B6E ice station library. Continuous. Queen and Hartley are in a small study containing piles and piles of books. Not just scientific journals and operating manuals, but tons of theological literature. Queen picks one up, a study of the disciple Paul, titled From Prison to Paradise.
Ah, yes, the Prophet Paul.
Blaylock walks in behind them.
You a religious man, Dr. Hartley? Mr. Hartley? Shoot, I don't know. I just met you. This is crazy. I know enough. Paul spent his final days in prison, persecuted for the Lord.
Sounds like he should have stayed quiet.
I used to think so too, Mr. Queen. But then I saw the truth. The line between good and evil.
In the distance, we begin to detect a low rumble. That's when Queen notices something on the bookshelf.
And the higher good on the other side.
He removes one book that stands out from the others. On its spine is a Checkmate logo labeled Handbook, Operational Regulations. It's a trap. And they've walked right into it.
Research station my ass.
But before Queen can even spin around, Blaylock suddenly draws a revolver and fires, hitting Hartley in the chest.
Yeah.
And stunned as the air runs out of his lungs, and he collapses on the ground. Queen makes a move, but Blaylock turns towards him.
They don't want us killing you. But I'm permitted to make exceptions.
The rumbling noise is louder now. We realize it is the sound of a helicopter blade. It is the sound of helicopter blade. Exterior B6E ice station, surface continuous. 3 Black Hawk helicopters touch down. Moments later, the doors slide open and out step the Checkmate soldiers, armed and ready for a fight. Interior B6E ice station, library continuous. Hartley's breathing is labored, heavy. Queen reaches out and takes his hand.
Don't let them forget us.
Queen doesn't know what to say. Hartley continues to struggle to breathe. Blaylock gestures with his pistol for Queen to stand up.
Turn around. Place your hands on the wall. And don't think my aim is off.
You better be really fast with that shot. You won't get a second.
That won't be...
Just then the air above suddenly falls in and several dozen rats pour down on top of Blaylock, who flails around wildly. Queen uses the moment to disarm him and knock his face into a wall. He drops to the ground out cold. Moments later, Blockbuster and Gemini come barging in.
What'd I miss?
Queen tends to Hartley. His green eyes go blank. The rats surround him. Then he finally dies.
Hartley. No.
Got to go. Now.
Interior B6E ice station entrance duct continuous. The Checkmate team descends the pulley into the main facility. The leader speaks on a comlink.
We're inside.
Interior Waller's suite continuous. Waller sits at her main console, watching OTS cams from each of the soldiers and security monitors. From inside the ice station, she's been watching the fugitives this whole time.
Be careful. They know you're coming.
Interior B6E ice station quarters moments later. A breach alarm rings out. Queen, Gemini, and Blockbuster run as fast as they can down the hallway. McKen joins them.
I take it we're getting out of here?
Bang! A shot takes off a chip of concrete just by McKen's head. Everyone stops to see Blaylock's son, holding his rifle in both hands, cocked and ready.
Oh, you did not just shoot at me.
McKen fires an ice shard directly at the boy, hitting him in the head and knocking him out. Gemini, meanwhile, runs to a security monitor. She sees the Checkmate team coming in through the duct.
There goes our exit.
I can feel moisture from the outside. There's another way out.
Interior B6E ice station corridor is continuous. The Checkmate team emerges at one end of the corridor just as the inmates run the opposite corner.
There!
They open fire, bullets cutting into the pipes and machinery. Queen and the others are pinned down just beyond the corner.
How much longer, Popsicle?
Get off my back.
A primed hand grenade lands at Gemini's feet. She casually picks it up and tosses it back down the corridor. The soldiers dive for cover as the explosion tears through. Kent, meanwhile, sees what he's looking for, a ventilation hatch, leading to a maintenance duct. The door's ajar.
Fresh air. This goes to the surface.
Blockbuster suddenly rises and pushes McKen out of the way.
All bets are off, right, Queen?
He climbs into the shaft and slams the hatch in their faces. Queen bangs up against it. Blockbuster buckles it shut from the inside. They can't get through.
Blockbuster, you son of a bitch!
Behind them, the gunfire is getting closer.
Is there another way out?
Does it look like there's another way out?
Wait. I have an idea.
Here, B6E ice station corridors moments later. The Checkmate team runs the corner, rifles raised, to see Queen and the others sprinting away. A door opens, and Blaylock emerges groggy and shaken from the wound to his head.
You all right? Gonna be one hell of a headache.
They turn their attention back to the fugitives. As the last soldier passes, Blaylock suddenly reaches out and grabs him from behind, smacking his head against the door while stripping the soldiers of his gear belt. The rest of the team spins around to see, you guessed it, Blaylock transforms into Gemini.
Take her down!
Gemini reaches to the soldier's belt and removes from it a smoke grenade, which she discharges in front of them. A black cloud fills the hallway, immersing her completely. Interior B6E ice station, maintenance duct, continuous. Blockbuster climbs the ladder at full speed, headed towards the daylight above. Interior B6E ice station, hangar continuous. Queen and McKen emerge in the middle of the garage. The Snowcat sits in the corner beyond it, in airlock.
You don't know how to ride one of these, do you?
You're the one with all the toys.
Automatic weapons fire, forcing them to the floor. Bullets puncture the concrete near Queen's head. The real Blaylock is firing an Uzi in their direction.
Does this man know when to give it up?
Interior B6E ice station corridor is continuous. The Checkmate soldiers creep through the haze of black smoke, guns trained in wide circles. One man backs up against a wall and is grabbed by Gemini, who throws him into the soldier next to him. Another man turns to fire but can only see smoke. She kicks the rifle out of his hands and cracks his nose. On the leader, looking around wildly as the smoke finally clears and sees no one is left. His soldiers all lie unconscious.
What the...
Suddenly, two legs drop down from overhead, grabbing him by the neck and throwing him into the wall. He goes down hard. Interior B6E ice station hangar continuous. McKent makes a mad dash for the Snowcat, sliding beneath it and coming up on the other side, protected from the gunfire. Queen, meanwhile, uses the distraction to go right at Blaylock. He yanks the weapon out of his hands and slams him in the face, discards the rifle uselessly. Blaylock unsheaths a hunting knife, which he slices at Queen, causing him to jump back. Queen glares at him with a look that says, "Don't waste my time." With two deft blows, he puts Blaylock on his back.
Stay down.
Blaylock tries to get up again, and Queen smashes his face with his heel. Now he ceases to move. Gemini runs up behind him. McKent revs the Snowcat engine.
Time to go.
They pile inside. Queen picks up a hanging remote and presses a large green button in front of them. The airlock doors open. Daylight pours in, a path to freedom. Interior Waller's suite continuous. Waller sees the downed Checkmate team and knows Queen has gotten away. She's only got one choice left.
Sorry, Queen.
She takes the key from around her neck, inserts it into a red switch on the console, and pulls the lever down. Interior B6E ice station hangar continuous. Blaylock sits up and sees in the wall the C4 charges flashing. Mick stumbles over. Blaylock wraps an arm around him, not even having time to get the words out. Exterior Antarctic surface continuous. The Snowcat clears the edge of the hangar just as, boom! An enormous explosion rips the underground complex apart behind them, engulfing everything in a wave of fire. Interior B6E ice station, maintenance duct continuous. Blockbuster, still making his way up the long ladder, turns to see below him a rising fireball. His smile vanishes as it engulfs him violently. Exterior Antarctic surface later. The tank moves stealthily over the snow, headed on a course due south. Gemini's checking the maps while McKent steers. Queen sits in the rear, staring back towards the fiery wreckage. The friend he left behind. Exterior Port LaCroix. Antarctica Day. Helicopters circle a large expanse of shipping containers being loaded into a freighter. The foreman scans each container for thermal activity as it is hoisted overhead by a giant crane. Amanda Waller stands next to him, her arms crossed.
Normally, we only check about 8%.
Make an exception.
Waller keeps her eyes on the monitor, watching as each container comes up blue, no signs of life. Slow zoom on one container that has just passed inspection and been lifted onto the ship. Interior shipping container continuous. A container filled with garbage and debris. McKent keeps his hands pressed against the metal walls, creating a thick layer of ice around every interior surface. This protects them from thermal detection.
There's some leftovers in here. Should be enough to eat.
Queen and Gemini sit on a pile of trash. Queen catches sight of his reflection in a nearby pane of broken glass. On Queen, watching his own shattered image, wondered if he knows this man anymore. Gemini reclines nearby, her thoughts on Hartley.
You were right about us. We screw each other over every chance we get. It's pathetic.
Queen looks at her. Her spirit has been broken.
What's the point of breaking us out? My daughter, she's not even going to know who I am.
For the first time, his heart goes out to the villainous prisoner. He reaches out and wraps an arm around her. Interior Supermax, Waller's sweet night. Waller speaks on a video conference with the President's Chief of Staff. Behind her, news of the escape plays on every television.
Post-op team went through the ice station inch by inch. They said they couldn't find a trace of the bodies. The station was liquidated, per procedure. What's that, Chief?
They stare at her for a very long time.
Doesn't mean they didn't get away.
Waller acknowledges this with a short nod. Exterior Star City skyline night. The freighter moves towards the northwestern port by cover of darkness. Interior Star City harbor night. Long after any servicemen have left, the shipping container cracks open from the inside. Queen, McKent, and Gemini emerge. They observe the Star City skyline in silence. Destiny reached. Their mission accomplished.
Guess this is where we part ways.
He turns to look at Queen.
You're really gonna let me go?
A deal's a deal. Maybe there's actually some good in you.
McKent smiles, extends his hand. Queen takes it, pulls him closer. Serious.
Don't prove me wrong, or else.
McKent smiles and steals off into the darkness. Now it's just Queen and Gemini.
This isn't the green arrow I remember.
Times have changed.
Police sirens scream out in the distance. Interior high-rise apartment morning. Hackett steps out of the shower, grabs a towel. Behind him, the television is playing the morning news. There's no word as to where the fugitives are believed to be. Again, if you're just joining us, a daring escape at the Supermax Penitentiary for metahumans. His phone rings. Hackett's face clouds over. He knows who it's going to be. After a beat, he picks it up.
Ollie.
I need your help.
Interior Supermax infirmary day. Injured inmates from the riot. Cot set up in the aisles. Waller stands over the bed of one prisoner in particular, Merlyn, sedated and unconscious, his face bandaged up. The medic holds up a makeshift arrow that Queen deflected through Merlyn's cheek, covered in blood, sealed in a bag.
Speak up, medic. I can't hear you.
The medic stares at Waller for a long thing.
About to be fired, medic. What was that? He was carrying a whole bunch?
He's carrying a whole bunch. We found enough parts in the cell to make a compound boat. Someone had to turn a couple of blind eyes here.
On Waller, her gears winding.
Give me all the security tapes.
Interior Star City Goodwill Clothing Center evening. The locked door has been jimmied open after hours. Inside, Queen and Gemini steal a pile of used clothes, discarding their Arctic gear.
What's they say about robbing the rich and giving to the poor?
Queen checks out his look in the mirror.
Lighten up.
Interior Star City Metro Station night. Commuter rush hour. On the balcony, Queen watches the main floor. Gemini waits across the way. She's keeping her eyes on a nearby bar, where television broadcasts images of the fugitives, mugshots. If you see these people, please call, etc. On the floor of the station, Queen finally sees Hackett, wearing a baseball cap pulled low, nervous, on edge, alert. Queen climbs down off his perch and descends the set of stairs. Gemini watches their surroundings. As Hackett approaches Queen, he forces a smile.
Glad to see you made it.
Then, as Queen is about to extend his hand for a shake, he catches sight of Gemini above. She's pointing at something across the way. A group of plain-clothed businessmen, insignificant except for the fact that they are all wearing earpieces. Feds everywhere, uniformed police guarding the doorways. It's a trap, and they've just walked into it. Queen turns his eyes to Hackett. At first he's confused. Then, his gear's working. He finally puts it all together. His best friend was the one who betrayed him. Hackett's smile fades. He knows he's been outed.
I guess this is where we say goodbye.
Queen stares at him in disbelief, then quickly pushes past him without another word. The plainclothes officers begin to swarm, emerging from every corner of the station, weapons drawn. Queen accelerates his pace. Hackett turns to watch him go, looking as his best friend vanishes into a sea of bodies. At the doorway, a police officer with a shotgun stands watch. A Chinese homeless woman, 70s, bumps into him, carrying grocery bags.
So sorry.
The police officer gently slides her out of the way, keeping his eyes on the situation. Unseen by him, Queen uses the distraction to slip through the door and head out onto the street. Exterior Star City streets continuous. Queen walks at a steady pace. The old Chinese woman drops her grocery bags and catches up with him, transforming into, you guessed it, Gemini.
I thought he was your friend.
Queen doesn't know what to say, just them behind them.
Hey, stop!
Queen and Gemini turn a corner where Gemini presses against a brick wall and transforms back into the Chinese woman.
Sorry, Queen. You're on your own now.
Queen doesn't even look back, breaking into a fast sprint as police cars swerve to a stop, blocking his path. He quickly leaps over the hood of one car and onto a moving taxicab, which he falls off and does a quick roll to his feet. The cops sprint after him. Queen darts into a blind alley and kicks open a fire escape. Interior shopping mall continuous. He runs through a narrow corridor and pushes into the main retail space of a department store. Alarm bells ring out. Strobe lights flash everywhere. Voices of policemen chasing after him. Queen sprints down the escalator and runs into an unsuspecting cop who goes for his weapon only to receive a chop to the throat. The cop drops the gun. Queen continues moving, kicking open a door towards a street-facing shop. It's a stationery store. He grabs a package of ballpoint pens off the rack as he runs quickly towards the display window and crashes through. Exterior Star City streets continuous. Queen emerges on the sidewalk in front of two stunned police officers. He quickly takes the ballpoint pens and tosses several of them. Like darts in the legs of the policemen, they scream out and go down. Queen sprints into traffic, daringly cutting across a high-speed 3-lane thoroughfare. Cars scream past him. One car swerves towards the intersection, headed straight for a woman on a cell phone. In the crosswalk, oblivious to the oncoming danger, Queen changes directions and leaps into the path of the car. Queen grabbing the woman and pushing her aside just in time. Now trapped in the middle of the street, he sees a cavalry of police cars getting closer. He turns up the street when he sees a bus barreling towards him. It screeches to a grinding halt, jackknifing erratically. It's a broadside about to smack Queen at 50 miles per hour when he grabs the window panel, spinning with the bus 360 degrees until it slams into the police cars on the opposite side, separating him from his pursuers and completely blocking their path. The cops run around the bus only to see that Queen has completely disappeared. Exterior dark alley. Night. Queen leans up against a brick wall. Sirens wail by in the distance. He's concealed and out of sight, his mind racing, and at 1,000 miles per hour. Gemini appears and sits down next to him. Neither says anything for a long beat.
Why are you still here?
I thought we could help each other.
He stares at her skeptically.
Look, we're trapped. Everywhere we go, it's gonna be like this. My daughter. I won't get within 1,000 yards of her. And you? How could you build a case against anyone while you're a fugitive?
What's your point?
Don't you get it? We're the only friends you've got left.
On Queen. Thinking this over, she's right. Interior Supermax, guards quarters, night. Officer Panati is tied down to a chair, sweating bullets. The door opens in front of him, and in walks Waller.
Waller, Listen to me.
If you insist on lying, then you are no better than the other prisoners. Thus, we will treat you accordingly.
2 guards hold him down. Another reveals he's carrying a stamping machine, the kind used to install a parallax device. Panani flails about wildly while they inject his arm.
You're going to tell me exactly how inmate 7461 had the freedom to build a compound bow within a maximum security lockdown.
The injection is finished. Panani cradles his arm, tears running down his cheeks.
Waller, you have to believe me. Doggone it, I had nothing to do with this.
Waller hits a receiver button, and a jolt of electricity courses through Panani's body. He unleashes a blood-curdling scream.
Blah.
Care to reassess?
They wanted Queen dead.
Who?
Interior Queen's safe house night. Deep underground, an enclosed location, Queen opens up a large concealed vault containing all of his backup equipment, his high-tech costume, weaponry, devices, arrows, and bows. He begins to suit up while Gemini watches.
What's it with rich men and toys?
Interior Hackett's private office night. Hackett goes to the minibar, pours a drink, carries it to the floor to ceiling windows, and stares out over the skyline. Movement outside. Something soaring through the air, getting closer. Finally, we realize it is an arrow lodging itself in the glass right where Hackett's face is. The pane spiderwebs begins to crack. On the arrow, some kind of detonation device is attached. Hackett leaps backwards just as, kaboom! The device explodes, bursting the glass inwards in 1,000 pieces. Hackett crawls on his hands and knees to get away as another arrow hits the wall just behind him, attached to a cord that runs outside the window like a zip line. Climbing in via the cord is Oliver Queen, a.k.a. the Green Arrow. The mask, the quiver, the bow. He's back in action.
Ollie, be reasonable.
Don't talk to me about reasonable.
Just then the doors burst open and in come 2 security guards, pistols raised.
Wait!
Queen draws another arrow and shoots it towards the ceiling. It emits a flashbang that momentarily blinds everyone. The guards shake it off to see Queen standing right before them, 2 tranquilizer darts mounted in small crossbows on each wrist, which he abruptly shoots into their necks. By the time Queen turns back around, Hackett has disappeared. The fire escape door swings back and forth. Interior fire escape stairwell moments later. Queen emerges, crossbows raised, and looks down the stairwell. 60, 70 stories. He hears footsteps coming from above him. Hackett is going for the roof. Exterior Star City Airport night. Amanda Waller gets out of a private plane and climbs into a waiting Humvee. She hands him an address.
I know where Queen will be.
Exterior rooftop moments later. Queen pushes out through a roof axis, bow drawn, when suddenly a fire axe swings at him. He ducks and rolls just in time. The axe lodges itself into the door. Hackett comes at him furiously. He swings the axe again and again, each time narrowly missing Queen, who rolls dangerously close to the edge and finally stops himself. Before he falls off, Hackett raises the axe one more time.
Like a bad penny, you know that? Every time I throw you out, somehow the tide brings you back.
On Queen realizing as we, exterior Queen's expensive yacht night flashback. The younger Queen, drunkenly pissing off the side of the boat while the party goes on behind him. Unseen by him, a younger Hackett approaches, also drunk, his face contorted into a hollow resolve.
It was you. You're the reason I fell.
Hackett puts his hands up against Queen's back and pushes him into the water below. Exterior rooftop. Today. Ta-da. Hackett's hands grip the axe tighter.
Look at yourself, Ollie. This is how you've been your whole life. You're not Robin Hood, you're Peter Pan. Spoiled kid who never had to grow up. Every time you get in trouble, fate was always there to bail you out.
He swings down, but Queen rolls out of the way. Hackett pulls back the axe and recovers.
And there's me. That's the best part. I cleaned up every mess you made. What have you given me for it? Nothing. No partnership, not even a share. When Cross made me his offer, it's the best I'd gotten in years.
Queen just stares at him in disbelief.
And now, I don't have to pick up after you anymore. So life is good.
Hackett swings the axe down again just as Queen raises a leg and kicks him back. He drops the axe and falls over. Hackett's bodyguards emerge from the stairwell, 5 of them, clad in Kevlar, rifles drawn, laser sights pointed. They open fire on Queen, who has to duck behind a skylight for cover. Just then, Gemini, appears behind the guards. Suddenly, she transforms into one of the burly guards, giving herself enough mass to pick up one of them, throw him into another, then transform into a sleek acrobat, cartwheeling into the other three with incredible athleticism.
You're clear.
A helicopter rises in the air, automatic weapons mounted on its sides, a Star City PD logo emblazoned on the nose.
Over, Queen! We have you surrounded!
Another helicopter rises behind them, its bright searchlight glaring down.
We have been authorized to use lethal force!
He reaches to his quiver when the helicopters both open fire. Queen and Gemini duck for cover. Hackett uses the chaos to sprint over the rooftop and leap to a lower terrace, hitting a scaffold and tumbling to a stop. Above, Queen and Gemini are both pinned down. They look at each other and nod knowingly, a silent agreement. Then Queen draws his bow and fires arrows towards the helicopter as Gemini stands and sprints for the exit hatch. The police shooter focuses attention on Gemini. She stays a step ahead of the bullets, getting closer and closer to the hatch, leaping inside just as a shot hits a nearby gas main, and boom! The entire hatch explodes around her. She disappears in a wall of flames. Above, the helicopters focus their attention back to Queen, only to see that he has disappeared.
Stay on him!
Stay on him where?
On the terrace, Queen stealthily slips through shadows, his bow drawn, tracking Hackett like an expert hunter. He hears footsteps nearby, turns and fires an arrow, launching across towards the running Hackett, about to hit him when it darts to the right, curving around his ankles and deploying a thin wire that wraps around him several times and brings him to the ground. Queen steps closer to Hackett, his bow poised to fire. The two friends stare at each other silently.
Trick arrows. What a throwback.
The helicopter picks up on them and shines its spotlight down. Hackett and Queen shield their eyes. The shooter has Queen in his sights when...
Attention, Star City Police Department. These fugitives are under Checkmate's jurisdiction.
They turn to see yet another helicopter looming above, this one with a Checkmate logo, emblazoned on the fuselage. Amanda Waller sits in the passenger bay, yelling out through the loudspeaker.
Code your position. I repeat, code your position.
Below, Queen brings Hackett to his feet. He raises a crossbow directly to his throat.
Oh, come on. You're not a killer, Ollie. You never were. Will prison actually change you?
On Queen, still hesitating, his eyes twitching back to the helicopter above. Finally, he discards Hackett and steps back. Lowering his weapons, dropping everything to the floor, he puts his hand on his head. Hackett can't believe his eyes. Behind them, on the rooftop, an entire SWAT team cautiously approaches, their weapons raised.
He's surrendering. Take him.
The SWAT team binds Queen in heavy tie wire. Queen never takes his eyes off Hackett. It's like he's sending him a message through his compliance.
Are you okay, sir?
Hackett averts his eyes, no longer able to look. Exterior Star City Airport night, the Checkmate jet revs up. Queen, bound in heavy chains, is escorted onto the plane by a dozen soldiers. He silently climbs the stairs past Waller. Exterior Supermax helicopter pad day. A helicopter touches down on the landing strip and the guards escort Queen through the hangar doors. Interior the whole, solitary confinement later. Queen is tossed into the narrow box and the hatch slams shut behind her. He leans up against the wall, sitting in absolute silence. The viewing hatch slides open. Waller looks in. Queen stares at her with the most steadfast, indignant expression you'll ever see. Wham! She slams the viewing hatch shut, immersing Queen in darkness. Once again, he's all alone now. Everything was for nothing. Fade to black. Interior the Cross Company, penthouse day, weeks later. Cross sits across the table from an exhausted Hackett. He looks like he hasn't slept in weeks.
You don't look well.
Hackett takes a long drink, stares straight ahead.
Hackett, are you listening to me? It's been 3 weeks. These assets are only going to remain frozen for so long.
I can't get that signature.
Cross smiles smugly.
Maybe we weren't clear on this relationship. I'm giving you a great opportunity, a chance to produce. But that means that pretty soon you're gonna have to start producing. Do I make myself clear? Do you understand?
Hackett turns his glare to Cross. He knows he doesn't have a choice. He's long since regretted this relationship. Exterior Star City Journal offices day. The daily hustle of a newspaper headquarters. One reporter casually carries a bagged lunch into his partition office just as he sees something odd. Attached to his folder is a manila envelope with the label, "For the Press." And that's not even what we're looking at. We're more concerned with the green arrow that nailed it to the door. Interior Supermax, the whole solitary confinement. Light shines through. Queen is asleep on the floor, unshaven and awful looking after a few weeks of confinement. Interior B block corridor moments later. Guards escort Queen on weak legs. Interior VIP visiting room moments later. The guards above Queen into a seat across a thick layer of bulletproof glass, staring at the person who awaits on the other side. Hackett, in his best suit, trying to put on a smile.
Got some VIP FaceTime.
He reaches into his briefcase and pulls from it acquisition papers. The same ones that Cross tried to get him to sign earlier in the story.
No more games. It's over. Pass me the company, I'll make sure your charities stay protected.
And then, slowly, Queen begins to smile. Something about it strikes Hackett the wrong way.
Fine. You're gonna die in here, Ollie. Alone on another desert island. And you know what? I'm glad. I was having my doubts, but looking at you here, smiling like that same son of a bitch, I have no regrets.
Queen still doesn't speak. And then, doors open behind Hackett. Prison guards walk in. They're escorting someone. That's when he turns to see Oliver Queen. Clean cut and wearing a nice suit. Looking like he hasn't spent a single day in prison. The smile drops right off Hackett's face like a ton of bricks.
Neither do I.
Hackett can't believe his eyes. He incredulously looks back at the Queen on the other side of the glass as he transforms into, you guessed it, Gemini, who maintains the same smile, this time adding a middle finger to go along with it. Several federal marshals enter behind Queen.
The hell is this?
Queen slaps down a file folder in front of him. Its contents spill out a signified affidavit. A signed affidavit.
Little research I did these last few weeks. Seems Merlyn has become born again. He confessed the murder of Colonel Talib Beni Khalid on your payroll.
On Hackett, his face contorting into a hollow rage, his universe beginning to come apart. Everyone stares at each other. Longly.
Somebody read it.
William Hackett, you are hereby placed under arrest.
This is laughable. This is insane.
The guards fit Hackett with handcuffs. He struggles against them, coming completely unhinged.
Anything you say can be held against you.
Don't let them do this, Ollie.
This is where we say goodbye.
Hackett lashes out at the officers, drag him away. Interior Supermax, Waller's sweet day. Waller sits contemplatively. Yeah. At her computer.
I'm sitting contemplatively.
Thank you. At her computer throne, staring into space as the television plays behind her.
The new allegation, citing the Checkmate organization as the chief transgressor, accused the Supermax Penitentiary for metahumans of a variety of violations, including guard corruption, collusion, and 32 flagrant abuses of the Geneva Convention.
Just then, the door barges open and several more federal marshals push inside.
You can't be serious.
The marshal dangles a warrant in front of her.
Yeah?
If I were you, I wouldn't say a thing, Miss Waller.
Exterior of the Cross Company, penthouse offices day. Cross sits alone in his high-rise offices. The TV behind him plays news of Queen's pardon. His face doesn't move. No emotion. He looks out towards his beautiful view. Behind him, banging on the door.
Mr. Cross, Star City PD, open the door.
Exterior of the Cross Company, penthouse offices moments later. The police officers kick in the door and run in only to see
Hey. No.
glass. The high-rise window once was. Cross jumped. Interior VIP visiting room continuous. Queen sits down in front of Gemini, sitting on the other side of the glass.
How have you been holding up in there?
Glad I can be myself again.
You may not be stuck here too much longer. Walls are coming down.
They'll never cut me free.
Maybe not. But everyone here deserves a better cage.
Gemini smiles gratefully, and then... behind Queen, a little girl enters. This is Rogue. She's 9, innocent and intimidated. Gemini's daughter. On Gemini, her face melting at the sight. Years of longing finally realized. Even the hardest of criminals can't help but break down.
Hi, baby?
Rogue reaches into her backpack and pulls out a drawing. It depicts a secluded villa.
I made this for you. It's Mr. Queen's house. See? That's my room. Right there.
Do you like living with Mr. Queen?
Oh yeah, it's real fun. Way better than the place I was before.
Gemini smiles at Queen, a silent thank you.
Mom? Are you gonna come live with us now?
I don't think so, baby. This is my home. Just like that's your home out there.
Queen steps forward, places his hands on Rogue's shoulders.
Say goodbye to your mother, Rogue.
Gemini puts both her hands on the glass. Rogue climbs down and walks away.
We get a visit every year. So, are we even now?
She smiles and nods. He makes a fist, places it to the glass. Gemini follows suit. Interior Supermax hangar day. Hackett is led by the federal marshals into a prisoner escort jet. As he looks at the handcuffs around his wrists, he begins to sob. Exterior Supermax helicopter pad day. The cold Antarctic surface. 2 helicopters wait on the edge of the tarmac. Waller is being led by handcuffs into one of them. Queen walks into another, where Rogue waits.
You're compromising the stability of the system. You know that, right?
You failed these prisoners. So did I.
You won't accomplish anything.
I owe it to a friend to try.
He starts to duck into the chopper.
Green Arrow?
Queen stops.
I thought you were one of the good guys.
Always.
And with that, he disappears inside. The blades whir to life. Crane back to a wide shot of the prison. A lone monolith against the expanse of ice. A last vestige of meaning in a world where all the lines have been blurred. As the helicopter flies off towards the horizon, we fade to black. The end.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all at the next one.